The Cellcast is recorded in front of a live streaming audience.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Cellcast. Joining me today is a man who's part dog, part fish, and apparently is replacing Monstro. Welcome, Jacob. I'm sorry, they said dogfish in this movie, and I thought, dogfish.
Yeah, dogfish.
The last time we saw dogfish was on 50 Goes West, and it was a lot smaller.
Well, a bit.
And then I thought, oh, Jacob's in this movie.
Thanks a lot,
As a
man.
Fish.
As a fish.
And I'm just going to say this right now. That thing does not look like a dog.
Yeah. It's like, when did I get turned into a dogfish again, Dila?
She says you weren't.
Oh, well, that's good.
That must have been an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, I must have got, into, Monstro. Either or. Why, thank you. Let me introduce our co-host. A man who, if he would stop lying, his nose would stop growing, it would help a lot. Welcome, Drew.
Are you saying you're getting tired of all the pollen?
Yes.
I mean, it is spring
Yeah.
in Texas, East Texas. The only people who have it worse than us are our friends just to the east of us in Louisiana.
That's true.
That would be Dallas and Celeste. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Anyway, you ready to get into the spoiler-free section on this?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Just give it a second till the thing finishes.
Certified fresh and spoiler free.
So this is my first viewing. I know that's a surprise. Honestly, if we're being honest, when we first heard about them making a Pinocchio movie, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I was like kind of iffy on it because we had seen the animated Pinocchio by that time, I think, or very close to seeing it. I don't remember which.
Roughly.
And I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's going to be a thing. And then I remember seeing this Pinocchio, the character model, thinking, well, that's an interesting design. And then I don't know what happened, but somewhere at the beginning of the year after that, I found out that there was the live action Disney version was being made. And of course I thought, well, that's probably going to sell better. And that's going to be the one that, probably going to do better. How on earth hey, it's another Pinocchio movie. I had not made the connection that Guillermo del Toro was connected to this Pinocchio movie.
Yeah.
So I thought, that Pinocchio movie will die to the Disney one. Oh, well. And then it didn't.
No.
And it's actually up for an Academy Award this year.
Jeez.
So, and this was all before I realized, it's stop motion animation.
Yes.
Because you can't really give a hard time. It doesn't look like it in parts of this movie. I will say
Very
that.
True.
There's parts of this that I literally thought this has to be CG because it's moving far too smoothly for what we normally see of stop motion.
True.
And then even this, as good as it is, it does still have some of that little jutteriness that you see in stop motion sometimes. Like in the action shots, you see it. But for the most part, you can't hardly tell. It doesn't look like stop motion. It is.
Yes.
But it doesn't look like it, which threw me off the entire time I was watching this film. It's like, this has to be CG. No, it's stop motion. It may have been modeled in CG and 3D printed, as that is a thing that they do now.
Yes, agreed.
Because this is definitely not claymation. But I mean, it's animated so well that I was actually surprised it's stop motion. But then once you recognize it, it's like, oh yeah, you can tell. There's just some things they would not have done if this was 3D. Yeah, you get right down to it, such as Spazzatura fur being firm, being stiff as it is. Because if it was pure 3D, the hair simulation artists would have gone out of their way to make sure Spazzatura looked as trashy as possible.
Yeah,
considering that's what his name means.
Ah, Makes sense.
Getting more to that in the trivia.
Mm.
But I mean, I didn't know this was going to take place during World War II. I actually knew next to nothing about this
Same.
until I hit play and I'm watching going, oh, this is interesting. This is a different take. You can tell this is definitely not based on the Disney version.
True. Which they try to stray away as far as
They did, but there's illusions.
There
which
is.
I like. Because
Mhm.
you can't really, you have to go with some things.
Yeah.
But only 2 of the characters even have the same names they have in the Disney version, that being Pinocchio and Geppetto.
Right.
One has got his name in the title of the movie, so you can't change that.
Right.
And the other, that didn't make sense to change that either. But Jiminy Cricket, that ain't his name because his name wasn't Jiminy Cricket in the original story.
No.
So they couldn't use that because of copyright, if nothing else. So instead they called him Sebastian J. Cricket.
Sebastian.
I noticed that J very prominently.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't say Jiminy, but it is
Sebastian Jiminy Cricket.
let's be honest.
Yes, agreed.
But honestly, I was still a doubter on this film until after a certain character was no longer with us. I'm not going to say who it is because we're in the spoiler-free section.
That is true.
But because I was kind of thinking, there was a bit there I was wondering where we were going, and then that moment happened. I thought, okay, this is definitely the tale that I'm used to. This is not the tale that I'm used to, and I'm curious where this was going, especially since I was now noticing, the little things about the animation. And it's just the farther and farther it went, the more and more I kind of liked the film. I get more into that when we get into likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
But this is how you remake a classic film.
I agree. You do.
You're not really remaking the film because it is being based more on the other story for no other reason than copyright reasons. But it's still a good, interesting and how they incorporate this in with its this new setting.
Yeah.
And time period and all that, I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, agreed.
It's actually a very well told story that even though we both know the story of Pinocchio at this point because we've watched 2 different versions of it by Disney put out. So we know the story, and yet by the time Pinocchio's going to school, well, I kind of knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I was guessing. I was like I wouldn't say on the front edge of the front of my seat or anything, but I was like, I gotta see where this is going. So this is just enough different, and the differences get more pronounced as you go to the point where near the end of the film, you can see what parts of the story they're adapting, but it is an entirely different story.
So it wasn't a movie like normal where you have this, but like you can project where they're going.
I can kind of do but the things I could project were the things that I knew from the story.
Yeah, true.
It's like I knew at some point they were going to do something where he was in the circus.
Right.
I knew at some point he would I keep wanting to call him Litwick. That's not his name.
No.
Anyway, but the other kid. I knew they were going to go to some place.
Yeah.
That's Candlewick.
Candlewick. Yeah,
I knew they were going to go someplace that was like the carnival. But I could tell in this setting it was not going to be the carnival.
No.
that from the other things. And yet it kind of is.
It is.
And I knew at some point they were going to be swallowed by a giant fish. I knew this.
Yes.
But those plot beacons are there enough that I can focus on that and just not worry about where on earth the story is going. I was able to get more into the details a lot faster than some movies.
That is true.
Because I was still ahead, but I was not. I was expecting something else and being pleasantly surprised. It was done differently.
Yes.
We'll get more into that in a bit.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that this was a 2-hour-long movie. Because every other version of this I've seen wrapped up in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And what is interesting, I would love to time this. I think they leave the belly of the big fish
Mm-hmm.
in this at the same time they left the belly of Monstro in the live action, time wise.
Huh.
There's no way that was done on purpose, but I got to watch it going, isn't this about where the other movie ended?
About, yeah.
Like it's like only got one little microscopic scene after this. And I think this is about the time it would have ended. So these are having to hit almost at the exact same time. And there's still half an hour of this movie left. How are you going to pull this off, Del Toro? I'm not going to say Guillermo much in this because I have a hard time saying his name. Because Guillermo is not the name. I think it's Guillermo. Yeah. This is why I'm just saying Mr. Del Toro.
Yeah, Del Toro. What was the other one that like one of the actors?
It was I think I kept saying it was Pan's Labyrinth because I was thinking it was that little girl. But the more I think Nate corrected us.
Oh, okay.
Or corrected me in an episode because it was actually a little girl that was in Pacific Rim.
Oh,
they were showing the other girl's background
Yeah.
when she was a kid, and he was directing her, but she could not say his name.
Yeah.
Was embarrassed by it, so he gave her, since she was Japanese,
Mhm.
he gave her permission to call him Totoro.
That is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious.
My neighbor Guillermo del Toro. And that's the last I'm saying Guillermo. This is the last I'm saying Guillermo tonight because I can't say his name.
Del Toro.
Mr. Del Toro. That's how I'm going to go by now.
Yeah.
Actually, there may be one other time because I still have to read the name of this thing here in a minute. Twice. Within 30 seconds of each other.
Yeah. During the production, like the young man who played Pinocchio and another character. So apparently, like, Del Toro would like, as long as you got the kid to do, work the scene out, and like he was the only actor who could do it. He literally tell Del Toro to shut up. Like every time he'd be like, it's like, shut up.
Well, when you got when you've got your main star, you can't really get rid of him. You got to play into his ego.
Well, it wasn't really more of an ego.
7-year-old ego.
It wasn't really more ego at all. It was more
facetious.
Oh yeah, of course. And sometimes I can't read a room, so I apologize. But like it's similar to that. I think Del Toro just has this way with working with people, definitely kids.
Oh yeah, he appears to be very good with kids.
Yeah. And apparently, like one of his favorite actors to work with, according to what movies I've seen, this Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
Perlman pops up in a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, and he's got an interesting character in this one.
True.
So, Wayne, what are your spoiler-free thoughts?
My spoiler-free thoughts on this film, this is just an absolute jewel of a film. It, like you're talking, it's got a wonderful story, great stop-motion animation, to just like story dynamics, and it takes the classic story, what we know from the Disney adaptation, and changes it just enough to be like it hooks you, like Drew was saying a minute ago, to where you see all the beacon markers throughout it. And it's like, okay, I know where this movie's going, but they change it just enough to where it hooks you right there. It's like, okay, this is where they're going with the story, but we're changing it. Like I think the main villain, who was supposed to be the main villain, they had the model completely done. And then Del Toro was like, no, it'd be like, I want this guy as the main character. Yeah. That was fascinating.
I don't know if he called him the main villain, but he's the one who would have been the character who drove the cart to the donkey. With the donkeys. They did take him out to focus more on the other two characters.
Yes, but like there again, be like, it's a beautiful adaptation.
And
this is
honestly, I think works just as good.
I agree.
Especially with Count Volpe. No, not Count Volpe. Podesta, that's who I mean.
Podesta. Okay.
With what he's doing with those kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Be like, I love this film. Be like, I'm not gonna be, coy or shy about it. I love it. It's got it turns the story just enough to where it doesn't completely derail the story and goes a different direction, like some films do.
Right.
But this movie keeps to its core of what the story was, but changes it just enough, gives you a little historical stuff in between. And oh my gosh, this is one of my likes I'm going to get into later, but I'm not going to tell you what it is until we get into my likes. But there's a certain character pops up, and I'm laughing my butt off every time this character pops up. I'm like, this is how they do this character. Awesome, because he's mentioned throughout the entire movie, and then he finally shows up. I was like, oh my gosh, they did it, and oh my gosh. So yeah,
the character who is voiced by Tom Kenny.
Yeah, voiced by Tom Kenny.
I thought so.
Yep, voiced by Tom Kenny. So I enjoy the mess out of this film. It's one of these movies that you definitely need to go watch, and I hope Netflix puts this out on Blu-ray, DVD, or because
good luck with Netflix, because they're getting as bad as everybody else by not putting stuff in physical media.
True.
Everybody should be putting stuff in physical media after a certain amount of time.
True.
I understand an exclusivity of a month to 2 months, even 3 months. I will even give you 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Year if it's a holiday film, because that makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
But it needs to come to he's going to physical media eventually.
Yeah, because some of us
are collectors.
You should see my collection.
Special thanks to Ashley Ruiz for these, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The Kingdom Hearts characters here
Yeah,
tonight,
of course.
Right? For those of you who are in the audio version.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise when I walked in the studio. That was nice.
While I was going, my internet's down.
So yes, I thoroughly enjoy this movie, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun reviewing this film. So yeah, that's my spoiler for your thoughts.
Well, then let's go ahead and get into those spoilers right now. The following is a spoiler-filled review for the movie Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm a real boy.
News to me.
Rough.
Sorry. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio was written and directed by Guillermo del Toro, who also wrote and directed Pacific Rim.
The first one.
Yes. Not the second one.
Yeah.
It was also directed by Mark Gustafson, who was the animation director on Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh, okay. We've already reviewed that.
But this is his first full directorial debut, even though he's helping Guillermo on this one.
Okay. So Guillermo didn't direct it.
He directed it, but I assume he's doing it. Mark Gustafson was doing the animation directing.
Oh, okay.
That's an entirely
more sense.
That is an entirely different skill set.
Agreed.
Directing live action.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Mr. Del Toro was in the studio with the people with the cast.
Yes.
When they were recording the audio and doing the direction there. It was also written by Patrick McHale and Matthew Robbins. Getting into the cast, we've got Ewan McGregor playing the Cricket.
Hello there.
Mr. Sebastian J. Cricket. He is, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars.
Hello there.
But he was also Christopher Robin in Christopher Robin.
That's true. I haven't seen that movie yet.
You need to. It's a fun movie.
Okay.
It's a fun little, I wouldn't say, it's kind of a sequel. A good sequel to, or extension, really. Extension's a better term.
Okay.
For Winnie the Pooh, because it's what happens when Christopher Robin grows up.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the 100 Acre Wood characters go and find him. Anyway, David Bradley played Geppetto, and he played Mr. Filch in Harry Potter.
That is true. Oh my gosh, I love that actor. He's so good at everything. Everything you see him and he's good.
Oh yeah. Gregory Mann played both Pinocchio and Carlo. And he played a character named William Monmouth in the TV show Victoria, which I think was about Queen Victoria.
Sounds like it.
But I could be wrong.
Part of history.
Bern Gorman played the priest, and he played a character named Stryver in The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Ron Perlman played Podesta, and he was Hellboy.
Yeah.
In the good Hellboy movies.
Yeah, which was also directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Notice how I said the good Hellboy movies.
Yeah, the good Hellboy movies. 1, 2, not the remake they did a couple of years ago, which we reviewed on movie of the week podcast. Go listen to that one.
Yeah. John Turturro played Dottore, and he was Pete Hogswallop in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I've only seen that movie once. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I'm probably going to go back and rewatch this because
I may
oh my gosh, you never see it. What?
I may make
you didn't like this movie?
I may make you watch it.
Make me watch it?
Well, I mean, as a part of the show.
Oh, okay. Like you're going to sit here and be a good boy, watch this movie. You're going to like it.
But I have a suspicion that may become like a discussion on like our Galaxy Quest episode of Movie of the Week podcast, where I still don't understand what's wrong with you on that.
I don't know.
Either way, Finn Wolfhard played Candlewick,
and
he played Mike Wheeler in Stranger Things.
Yes, he did, and also in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yes. Well, had a different name than that.
Yeah, he was a different character in Ghostbusters. Yeah,
that would be a weird crossover.
That would be a crossover,
and I would be there for it. But
yes.
That's not how that works.
Right.
Kate Blanchett played Spazzatura, and she was Galadriel in Lord of the Rings. She went from the fairest maiden, elvish maiden in all of Lord of the Rings to garbage. Because that's what the name means. That's what Spazzatura means.
Oh my gosh, what was it?
I had to pick. I picked you up yesterday because of your car issues. As we're going to Bible study.
Yes,
and I said, "Did you get you Kate Blanchett played in this film?"
Yes. And you realize like Kate Blanchett be like she wanted to be in a Guillermo del Toro film. And see, I don't care what it is.
This was the only character they hadn't cast.
Yes, the monkey. And she does a fantastic job.
Oh, yeah. Tim Blake Nelson played the Black Rabbits. Four Black Rabbits.
Yes.
And he played Delmar O'Donnell in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I hear a theme coming along here.
Hey, then both of the co-stars.
Yeah.
Well, besides George Clooney.
Right.
Or in it, you kind of have to mention it. I like
very
I like to do themes when they exist.
True.
Christoph Waltz played Count Volpe, and he was Blofeld in No Time to Die, but not the other instances of that movie of those James Bond movies from that era.
Really?
Because he always changes how he looks.
That's true. That's true. He does.
Tilda Swinton played both the Wood Sprite and Death.
True.
Both sisters. And she was the Ancient One in Doctor Strange.
Yes, that's right.
Quite possibly the funniest one. Tom Kenny played the Sea Captain, right-hand man, and Benito Mussolini. And of course, Tom Kenny is most famous for playing SpongeBob SquarePants.
So he goes from
SpongeBob was Mussolini. Can you talk about a good way to just... I'm sure this was not Del Toro's thought process when he made this casting.
Right.
But in my mind, it's like, how do you show you really hate a famous person? Cast them with a voice actor who's most well known for playing a sponge who's ready, who can't even pass his boating license so he can drive, who's best friends with a pink starfish.
Oh, it's too funny.
And works for Lex Luthor. I mean, Mr. Krabs.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding.
Also, fun fact, our Kingdom Hearts connection is Tom Kenny.
Of course.
Because along with playing those roles I just mentioned, in Kingdom Hearts 3 specifically, because the actor who was doing it previously had passed by the time Kingdom Hearts 3 was being run, he played Rabbit.
Oh.
So there's another Winnie the Pooh connection for you right there. But that's what I've got in our cast list. What do we got in info and stuff?
All right. So info and stuff. We have IMDb is a 7.6 out of 10.
Needs to be higher.
Yeah, agreed. It does. Production was Netflix Animation, Double Dare You Productions, Shadow Mechanic,
Shadow Machine.
Shadow Machine. Sorry, I
think
misread.
that's what it was.
Yeah, it's Shadow Machine. I just misread it.
Yeah.
My apologies. The Jim Henson Company and Taller del Choco. It sounds like it's probably Del Toro's company.
Probably.
That's what it looks like.
I can spot it. Oh,
Right
yeah,
there.
Taller del Choco. That's
Taller del
Chucho or something. I don't know.
Chucho.
It's Spanish. I don't know.
Yes. So distribution, obviously Netflix. His release date, and this has got a bunch of different release dates. October 15th, 2022 at the BFI, the London Film Festival. And it was released. It's got, I didn't realize this when I was putting the notes. It was released in the United States on November 9th, 2022, and to Netflix on December 9th, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that was a little weird. Streaming, and apparently went to theaters in some places in like Mexico.
So one of the rules for in order to be in the Academy Awards is that a film must be shown in a theater
That makes sense.
within the previous year. So in order for all the like, streaming services to still get their stuff considered, a lot of times they will do a limited release around the time or just before the movie comes out. So
that is true.
So that it can be shown in a theater. They did this with Netflix. Also did this with Glass Onion a month before it came to the streaming service.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it was on Thanksgiving weekend when I couldn't go because I would have seen that in a theater in a heartbeat.
Yes.
If it had been local, because I would have had to go to Dallas to see it.
Hey, could have made a trip out of that. It'd been awesome.
There's not many movies that would, well, okay, had there not been other considerations,
True.
because it was Thanksgiving weekend.
True.
I'm not saying I would not have strongly considered making that trip.
It's like, hey, Mom, can I get a box to go? I got to drive.
I must see James Bond fight Drax and 4 other people whose names I can't think of and try to figure out who murdered the person.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I can barely talk about that movie.
Yeah, without spoiling
it.
Right.
At the same time, to quote Daniel Craig in that movie, it's just dumb. It's so stupid.
All right. So going into streaming, it had a budget of streaming and theater. So it had a budget of $35 million. On Netflix alone, it had 10.91 million hours viewed worldwide.
Okay.
And theater, for its limited release, it made $108.967 or $108,000 and some change.
Right.
For a limited release movie, that's not bad.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all I have for on info and stuff.
Let's hit the summary then. In Italy, during World War II, in a drunken rage 20 years after losing his son Carlo to an aerial bombardment, the carpenter Geppetto cuts down a pine tree and uses it to create a wooden boy. The wood sprite brings the puppet to life, christening him Pinocchio, and assigns Sebastian J. Cricket to guide him as his conscience, promising Sebastian a wish in exchange. Geppetto wakes up to a living Pinocchio but becomes terrified and fed up with his antics, resulting in the village Podesta ordering Geppetto to send Pinocchio to school. On his way, Pinocchio is intercepted by showman Count Volpe and his monkey Spazzatura, who bring Pinocchio to their circus. Geppetto arrives to take Pinocchio back, resulting in a confrontation between him and Volpe that ends with Pinocchio being fatally hit by a truck. In the afterlife, he meets the wood sprite's sister, Death, who explains to Pinocchio that he is immortal. There's a scary thought.
Yeah.
And revives him when an hourglass empties. Death cautions that the more he dies, the more time he will spend in the afterlife. After returning to the mortal realm, Pinocchio decides to earn money for Geppetto by performing in the circus, as well as to avoid being conscripted into the army by the Podesta. In an attempt to reinstate himself as a circus star, a jealous Spazzatura reveals to Pinocchio that Volpe is conning him out of the money he falsely promised to send to his father.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing this, Volpe viciously beats Spazzatura, upsetting Pinocchio. In order to sabotage Volpe, Pinocchio performs a song ridiculing Benito Mussolini while Mussolini is in attendance. Mussolini has Pinocchio executed and the circus burned. Once revived, Pinocchio finds himself being taken by the Podesta to a boot camp where other boys are trained to fight in the war. Pinocchio befriends the Podesta's son, Candlewick, who is afraid of disappointing his father. After a training game between two teams led by Pinocchio and Candlewick ends in a tie, the Podesta orders Candlewick to shoot Pinocchio. Candlewick refuses and stands up to his father. The training camp is then bombed by Allied aircraft, killing the Podesta, while Candlewick and the other boys flee. Pinocchio is captured by Volpe, who tries to burn him to death as revenge for ruining his career. Spazzatura saves Pinocchio, resulting in Volpe falling off a seaside cliff to his death, alongside Pinocchio and Spazzatura during a struggle with the monkey. Lost at sea, Pinocchio and Spazzatura are swallowed by a giant dogfish.
Arp, arp.
Inside the monster's belly, Pinocchio and Spazzatura find Geppetto and Sebastian, who are also swallowed during their search for Pinocchio. Thanks to an idea by Sebastian, Pinocchio lies to make his nose grow into a large branch, thus forming a bridge leading out of the monster's blowhole. Making their escape as the monster attempts to eat them again, Pinocchio sacrifices himself by detonating a naval mine inside the monster, killing them both. Upon meeting Death again, Pinocchio demands to be sent back early to save Geppetto from drowning. Death warns him that doing so will make him mortal, but Pinocchio breaks the hourglass to return and ends up drowning while saving his father. The wood sprite reappears to a mourning Geppetto, and Sebastian uses his wish to make her revive Pinocchio. Pinocchio returns home with his father, Sebastian, and Spazzatura to live together as a family. Outliving all of his loved ones, Pinocchio decides to travel the world. Getting into the trivia for this, Kate Blanchett told Guillermo del Toro that she wanted a part in this film during working on Nightmare Alley, but the only character that hadn't been cast yet was Spazzatura the monkey. To Del Toro's surprise, Blanchett wanted to voice the character anyway, even though they have little actual lines and spent most of the film making sounds. In the making of documentary, Blanchett and Del Toro confirmed that she enthusiastically told him, "I'll do anything. For you, I would play a pencil." I want to see Kate Blanchett playing a pencil now. By the way, this is the longest stop motion animated film.
Really?
Full stop. Because most of the stuff times they end in an hour and a half.
True.
Geppetto's deceased son is revealed to be named Carlo. This is most likely an homage to Carlo Collodi Lorenzini, who wrote the original Pinocchio story in 1883. On November 10th, 2017, Guillermo del Toro announced that the project was canceled. On October 22nd, 2018, however, Netflix announced that Del Toro was brought on board to direct a stop-motion adaptation of Pinocchio, and Del Toro himself tweeted concept art that shared identical character designs for his original Pinocchio project. Unlike most versions of Pinocchio, which take place in 1800s Italy, Guillermo del Toro decided to set this version in 1930s Italy under the rule of Benito Mussolini and the National Socialist Fascist Party. This is the third time that Del Toro has set a film during a real-life political event after The Devil's Backbone in 2001, which took place during the Spanish Civil War, and Pan's Labyrinth, which also took place during the Spanish Civil War. Oh, during and after the Spanish Civil War is when those two films took place. Sorry, I read that wrong. Either way, the reason the cricket is constantly subject to amusing injuries, one of which prominently involving a hammer, is likely a nod to his fate in the original book, where Pinocchio gets annoyed by him and smashed him with a hammer, and then spent the rest of the novel as a ghost. Not to mention Sebastian is basically telling the entire story from beyond the grave anyway.
True.
At the beginning of the film, Geppetto's Jesus Christ sculpture is missing its left arm. When Pinocchio comes back to life at the end, he's missing a left arm as well.
Interesting.
In the book and most previous adaptations, Lampwick/Candlewick is treated as simply a bad kid who pays the price for being disobedient, an unsympathetic anti-role model. This movie's version of Candlewick, on the other hand, is given a legitimate Freudian excuse, and his capacity for disobedience is treated as a much more ennobling quality. The entire Land of Toys plot is removed from this version of the story, with the Coachman character instead being reimagined as the Podesta, a fascist government official who wants to turn Pinocchio and the other young boys into soldiers for the regime. As a result, Candlewick and the other boys are never transformed into donkeys, but are instead left to an uncertain doom as a military training camp is bombed. I would like to point out that they were training them to be soldiers in Mussolini's army, which could be considered the same as turning them into donkeys.
True.
Which is the nice way of saying the word I wanted to use. But this is a family-friendly podcast.
True.
When Pinocchio arrives at the military training camp, there's a brief montage of boys climbing up ropes, echoing the scenes of Pleasure Island in the 1940 version, which featured a lot of boys climbing onto roofs and jumping out windows. This subtly tells the viewer that the training camp will be the story's equivalent to Pleasure Island. The difference is, in the Disney movie, it's a place where boys misbehave and run wild, while here, they're all doing exactly what they're told, and are implicitly miserable throughout. Pinocchio, using his nose as a means to escape from the terrible dogfish, harkens back to the 1996 live-action film that does the same thing, even down to one of the intentional lies being the declaration that he hates his father. Pinocchio keeping Sebastian's body to rest in a box of matches that he carries inside his chest is a stealth shout out to the Charles Dickens story, The Cricket on the Hearth. Last but not least, unlike the original story and its many adaptations, this version of the titular character was made not out of love, but out of Geppetto's grief at losing his child, Carlo, during the Great War, and his body is highly distorted due to Geppetto building him in a fit of drunken rage. Not only is he ostracized by the townsfolk for being a living puppet, which they assume to be a work of the devil or of witchcraft, but Geppetto constantly demanding him to behave like Carlo instead of let him be his own person, forced Pinocchio to join the circus to get some money for his father. And that brings me to the end of the trivia. What is your first like, sir?
My first like, this, I was not expecting this opening.
No, I wasn't either. I was not expecting the setting at all.
Yeah.
I was expecting 1800s Italy.
Yeah. Something like that. But no, we're in, the 20th century, and the beginning, like the very end of the Great War is, as most people now know, World War One. But it's just like, oh, okay, this is cool. And you see what's going to happen. I'm like, oh no. But it's so well done because you get this great setup with Geppetto and his son and their dynamic and how much be like as a father-son relationship, the love they have for each other is so well done. And then it's just blown to kingdom come, literally and figuratively. And I just like, you're sitting there, you have that be like, it's a stop motion figure, but you feel the grief for Geppetto. Be like, it's because I think in other adaptations it's mentioned that he had a son, I believe.
I believe so, but it's never been a full-on in your face sort of thing.
Yeah.
In most cases, it really does start like right as Geppetto is finishing building the puppet.
Right.
Just as Jiminy Cricket's arriving.
Right.
It makes sense because Jiminy Cricket's telling the story.
That is true. So, and you have this dynamic moments of where Geppetto just goes in this deep state of depression to where he longs for his son, and he spends the gulf between the Great War and World War II was. Well,
this isn't exactly World War II yet.
It's the early.
Yeah.
So that would have been like the late 1918 to about 1920, like almost in the 30s,
closer to 1938.
Yeah.
I don't remember when the other. I know Mussolini and Hitler came to power like during the early 30s, if not the late 20s.
It was like Mussolini took over in 1934, I believe.
Yeah.
then
this feels like it's got to be closer to when the actual war was just starting.
Yeah,
in
it was
Europe.
just starting. So that would have been like 1930, like 36, like 36,
Yeah.
38, 37. So that been around that time. So Geppetto has been mourning this entire time.
which I get.
Which is like it's great how they do that, and definitely how he, in his own rage, that he's going to Dr. Frankenstein his son back to life.
I don't think he was really thinking that clearly.
No, he wasn't. He was
in-
drunk and he was
right.
upset.
He was drunk, upset. Because he saw that tree that from the pine cone that his boy went back into the church to get, and that's why the kid died.
Yeah,
and he planted it. He buried it with the boy, or planted it like just as almost as his headstone.
Yeah,
to get right down to it. And in his grief, he cut the tree down, and that's what he built Pinocchio out of.
Yeah,
but he was not intending it to come to life for anything.
No,
like that.
no. Just in his drunken stupor and his delusional mind that like I'm going to bring my son back to life, and in a way he does. In a way, through the sprite. Am I saying that right?
Wood sprite, yeah.
Wood sprite. But there again, that's another good departure. But
we'll get to that.
Yeah. So that's my first like of this movie. It does such a hard opening and kind of rips your heart open a little bit, and allows the story to come in. And I just like that was so well done, especially when the bombers are coming over the first time. I'm like, oh, that's what's gonna happen.
Especially when I keep on calling him Jiminy, but when Sebastian says. The worst part is that their town was not even on the list of targets. It was just
they were dumping their payload.
dumping the ammunition to get rid of it, so that they could fly back to where they were going. It's like, oh, that's even worse because it's not even intentional. It's like literally, it's just like,
yeah, casualties of war.
I'm gonna jump off of that but expand on it.
Yeah,
my first like for this film is the adaptation of the original story.
Agreed.
One of the issues I generally run into with different versions of a story is that there's usually one version, and it's usually the older version that I prefer, because a lot of times if you're making if you're remaking a film, it's not because the previous film was bad,
right?
It's because it was so good you thought you could make a quick buck.
True.
Granted, I don't think that's what Del Toro was doing, but this is the thought process that goes through my mind.
Fair.
So it's natural to compare and natural to think that the original would be the better film. I don't believe you can actually fairly compare this to the original film. It's natural too, don't get me wrong. But comparing this film to the original Disney film would be like comparing the Dark Knight trilogy to Batman 66. I'm sorry, they're different things. Same character, same adapting the same thing, but adapting them entirely differently. It's like Shrek being adaptations of the old fairy tales. It's not, and yet it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I went into this thinking we were going to get, just another hackneyed Pinocchio Disney ripoff film. And I was pleasantly surprised moments after starting the film that it really wasn't. Because and so every time they make changes to what I know of as the story, which technically they can't actually adapt the Disney version itself because of the way copyright works, they are having to go back to the original story. I actually liked this version better because it's probably going back to the original story and taking elements and then telling an original story, of course, based on those elements, since the original story was written long before World War I or World War II. So the changes he made were appropriate.
Yeah.
So many films that we see that are an adaptation of another work. They'll make changes either to make it more darker or something like that, you know? And I'm like, you didn't have to do that. You need to give people what you need to give people what they want. It needs to be a good representation of the original story. Now, granted, I have not read Pinocchio. I cannot tell you if it's a good adaptation of that. What I can tell you is this. This film was true to the spirit.
Agreed.
That the original Disney film was also true to. They're two different films. They're telling two different stories and differently, but it's true to the spirit. Yes, there are similar plot lines, but it's because they're both technically an adaptation to the story, and they're both good adaptations of the story.
True.
But I don't feel it's right to compare the two because they're doing entirely two different things. But the idea of, we still get the circus scene, and I love that the puppet circus is down on its luck because nobody goes to circuses during the 1930s, because that fad passed in the 1800s. So while it was a big deal in the 1800s, it's long past by this point. So,
that is true.
That's a great way to reuse that. I love the idea that the place where they're sending the kids to be turned into donkeys of a sort in this, instead of it being, we're just misbehaving boys and we're going to take advantage of their misbehavior to magically turn them into things that are useful for adults. It's, we're going to train you to be soldiers so you can kill, so that the people in charge don't have to get their hands dirty.
That's true. And basically you're cannon fodder. Right.
And then it's like, and then you're looking at, granted, a lot of these characters feel original.
Yeah.
But they're not. The Podesta is basically the carriage driver.
Yeah.
From the Pleasure Island carriage driver. The I can't think of his name, but the circus owner is, of course, the adaptation of the circus owner. Spazzatura. Do you remember the cat from the Disney version that was supposed to be voiced by Mel Blanc? But then all his lines got cut. That is who Spazzatura is based off of.
Really?
That character.
Really?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And you see those things all throughout it. It's like, yes, they're not the same characters, but they are close enough that I'm happy with them. And in some ways, they're telling a much better, deeper story than Walt Disney was interested in telling back then, because Walt Disney was making these things for kids.
True.
This movie is, while kids can watch it, it's not made for kids.
No, it's not.
It's made for adults to get into, because there's a lot of deep, dark stuff that happens. A lot of dark stuff that happens in this film.
Agreed.
I just think the adaptation of this, while definitely different than what Disney went with, both in the cartoon and in the live action one we watched last year, I think it's actually a much better way of doing. I think it's a much better adaptation. Personally, I consider this the better film.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of that is also because this is newer, and the old one, while it's still good, it's got a lot of culture that is far enough separate from me that I don't fully understand it.
I gotcha.
Because let's face it, the 1940s were a long time ago.
Very true.
And this is definitely, while it takes place in the 1930s, it's still more of a modern day film because of the way art is made. Anyway, yeah, the adaptation process for this, the adaptation choices, is my first like, because it's adapted so stinking well.
Agreed.
What's your second like?
My second like, yeah, mine goes in the exact same direction yours does. It's this amazing retelling of the classic story, but done in such a dynamically different way that it's like, I mean, like, yeah, all your core characters are there. They're slightly different. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because in the original book, in the original story, that Cricket is actually smashed
very early on before he goes to school.
Yeah, very early.
My understanding, and then the rest of the film, rest of the book, he's a ghost.
Yeah. So,
but he is still the narrator of the story.
Yeah, he's still the narrator. But in this one, be like, and
That's my understanding because I haven't read the book.
same here. Ewan McGregor does an amazing job as as Cricket, and it's just like the entire time he's getting smashed the entire time. I'm like, it's like, oh, death, oh, the pain.
I especially liked the scene when Geppetto is just catching up to where Pinocchio is at the circus, and he sees the cricket because he's not even talked about even acknowledged the cricket's existence up to this point, except you kind of know he knows he's there.
Yeah,
and he sees him underneath the whatever it was that fell on him in the end of the last scene.
Oh yeah.
He picks it up, and you think, and you just see the look on Geppetto's face, like, is he dead? And he just goes, over there. I saw that and cracked up.
My gosh, yes. So be like, in a small way, I'm going to adapt what I just said. Ewan McGregor as Cricket. What's his name?
Sebastian J. Cricket.
Sebastian J. Cricket. Every single scene Sebastian is in is just gold. Oh my gosh. Such good performance by Ewan McGregor, because Ewan McGregor is an amazing actor. If you haven't seen it, because most people are like, oh, he's in Star Wars. He's done a lot more in Star Wars. Yeah, he's in Star Wars, of course.
I'm not saying he isn't.
No, of course
but
not.
He's a lot. Ewan McGregor is one of the few people out there I can say that even no matter what movie he's in, I will at least enjoy his part.
Yeah, exactly.
I have yet to see him turn in a bad performance.
Yeah.
If you know of one, send it to me. I'll probably find a way to defend it.
Okay.
I am including the men who stare at goats in this, by the way.
I haven't even heard of this one. No, I have heard of it.
You have heard of it.
I have heard of it.
It's a weird, strange movie, but I like.
That's right.
Like
that's right. Yeah.
This.
Yes, but Ewan McGregor's performance as the Cricket is absolutely hysterical. I'm nipping at the bit every time he comes on screen. He says something. He does something. His character just comes to life because of Ewan McGregor's performance, and I absolutely love it to death. Because they'll be like, there's there are so many great performances, but Ewan McGregor's performance as Cricket is just amazing. So yeah, Ewan McGregor, awesome.
My second like for this is Guillermo del Toro's character design.
Oh yes,
specifically the black rabbits.
Oh my gosh,
the wood sprite.
Yes,
Death and the wood spirits that we saw there.
It's Del Toro all over the place.
You're watching it, and it's like Del Toro has two modes. Close enough to everyone else, you would be surprised to learn that it was him.
Yeah,
and then crazy stuff that is from your nightmares, and yet it's not.
Yes,
because you look at it and go, that is Del Toro through and through. I could see this in Hellboy. I could see this in Pan's Labyrinth. Like that.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like, that is strangely beautiful.
Yes.
And yeah, that's just his designs over. The only other person I can think of that filmmaker has a distinctive design that I would say that is their design would be Tim Burton.
Yeah,
because his designs are very distinctive also.
Yes.
But I prefer Del Toro's designs because it just looks when he's designing monsters, which I'm sorry, Death and the wood sprite and the bunny, the black rabbits, they're monsters.
They are monsters.
You might as well call them like they are. Yes, they're good. Most of them are on Pinocchio's side, but they're monsters and they look amazing.
Yes.
There's not something anyone else would do, and they would never do it right. So yeah. I really love Del Toro's design specifically for those characters. We'll say also his designs for every other character in this film, which I assume he designed all the rest of the characters too.
Yeah.
Especially Mussolini.
Yes.
We'll get to Mussolini in a minute.
Yes.
But yeah. I like his designs.
I agree with you there, because like Pinocchio's design is so
interesting
because it's how he carves them and he doesn't finish them because he's drunk.
Mhm.
But when Pinocchio comes to life,
that animation beautiful.
is beautiful but frightening. It's like, oh my gosh, get that thing away from me.
Especially when he's moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, there's something.
And just like tumbling over himself.
Right,
it's just like, oh my gosh, what kind of freaking sign thing is this?
Yeah, because that's the thing. You go back to the original Disney film, and for the most part, Pinocchio is just a human that happens to have joints.
Yeah, and
Geppetto's
like,
the way he's animated.
Yeah.
Yes, there are times when Disney kind of plays into the fact that he's a puppet, but it's not really that often.
Right.
This, you have no day. His entire movement is never feels like it's a real human person moving around in there.
Yeah, it's a puppet that's brought
you
to
can
life.
definitely tell it's a puppet brought to life, which is both creepy and interesting at the same time.
Yes.
A lot more better done, I think, than because that's the thing, is the puppet, especially from this era, really should be a little creepy.
Yeah,
to our modern sensibilities.
Agreed.
The only thing that would have been creepier is if he'd somehow painted him up to be like a Stephen King clown.
Oh my
like
gosh.
Pennywise.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, I jumped in on what
no,
you were saying.
You're good. No, but yeah, because that the design wise is so incredible, because I haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth yet, but oh my gosh, from the design perspective is frighteningly beautiful, and I agree with you there. So you mentioned somebody I mentioned a moment ago.
Oh no, don't tell me we have the same third like.
Yes, you do. El Duce.
Benito
Mussolini. Oh my gosh.
You know, it's funny. Mussolini is one of those names that you learn about in like high school history class,
right?
Where it's like, yeah, he led fascist Italy. Are we going to talk about fascist Italy? No. We're going to focus on Hitler because that's what you all know. Yeah. So we get Mussolini in this. I'm like, surely they'll just keep mentioning him. Surely they'll only mention him. They'll never do the whole thing.
And
they have him in there.
Yes.
I was like, oh no, what is the guy do?
What are they gonna do? And they do it. Oh my gosh. So set up.
I'm trying to let you talk, since you actually are getting the one to say this, but I'm going to have to say something when you're done.
Yes.
If you don't touch on it.
Oh, okay.
Or I may have to while you're touching on it. Anyway.
Be like the entire movie be like it's in fascist Italy during World War II. And they keep talking about El Dolce.
Yeah.
The entire time. And it's like
they keep doing the Nazi salute all the way through it.
The entire time, which was the same thing that
same thing that Mussolini did.
And his fascist, government. Apparently was very fashionable back then.
He probably goose step too.
Yeah, they did goose step, actually.
Yeah, because that's just what tyrants do for their armies.
They goose step.
They make them goose step. Look, I know there's probably a decent reason for that.
There is,
but I'm sorry. I look at you doing goose stepping, marching, and I'm going, do you realize how ridiculous you look? You're supposed to be terrifying because of what you represent, and you look like the Ministry of Silly Walks.
So the entire time of the movie, it's like, oh, the El Duce's coming. I'm gonna call him Castro, but his name is like Castro.
No, it's not Castro, it's Mussolini.
Yeah, Mussolini. It's like, oh, Mussolini's gonna be at the performance, and he loves puppets. And then he finally showed, and it's like,
are we actually going to do this? Are we actually going to have Pinocchio perform for Benito Mussolini? Yes, we are, but Pinocchio's going to do it in the best way possible.
Oh, absolutely. So the setup, because I actually looked it up, Mussolini was 5'7". He's a little shorter than I am.
Right.
And I'm like,
but of course, he played to the Napoleonic complex.
The Napoleon complex, and you want to make him look like he's an idiot.
Because Napoleon wasn't really short either.
No, he wasn't. But he shows up and be like, he's so short. I'm like, what the heck?
Up to this point, while Pinocchio's been performing for the circus, they have this very patriotic song they always seem to end their performance on.
Oh my gosh,
which is this very patriotic, I fight for the fatherland, blah 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 blah, that sort of thing. And before he goes up there, he says to Spazzatura, "Hey, I've got an idea. Are you up for it? We're going to have a real good performance for Mussolini tonight."
Oh my
and
gosh.
Spazzatura's up for it.
Yeah.
And he gets up there and he says, "I poop for the fatherland. I fight for our enemies," or something like that. And I'm just over here laughing because it's the same song, just with words changed. But even the
entire skit,
the choreography is the same, except he keeps referencing his butt. And I'm like, this is a poop joke. This is a fart joke. This is bathroom humor. I should hate this based on my own sensibilities because it's not a one or two thing. This is like, no, this is the entire point of the scene.
Yes.
We really got to show how much we hate Mussolini in this. I'm like, and I'm sitting there going, I should hate this. I want more. Keep going. I want the whole song. I want all those other versions to have been the abridged version for pacing issues. And then this one here's the 5-minute version.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And the best parts for me anyway, just from an acting perspective.
Yes.
From just watch this is at the beginning of that, he says, "I like puppets. I like this. I like this show," because he'd seen a picture of Pinocchio. Yeah. And you get to the end after Pinocchio's done all this stuff. He says, I hate this puppet. Burn it all down. Shoot the puppet. Shoot the puppet and burn the whole thing down. That's like, I'm both for and against this because yes, the circus leader whose name I've never remembered since I say his name at the beginning of this.
Right.
I don't like his character. You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed
He's
to.
a villain, but it's like I'm happy to finally see this character's comeuppance. Hoping Spazzatura comes out okay because strangely enough, while Spazzatura is not a likable character in the beginning, you really feel for her or him or whatever.
Right.
By this point.
Yeah.
By this point, it's like you didn't realize Spazzatura is just as a slave to the circus guy as Pinocchio is. And you want him to I'm gonna keep saying her because it's Kate Blanchett. So it's like you want to see her escape too. It's like anyway. Sorry, I jumped on you, but yeah,
no,
Benito Mussolini.
Yes, Mussolini.
The character I was not expecting to be in this film.
My thought was like, okay, they're gonna allude to him.
Yeah.
Be like, I didn't realize they were gonna bring the character in and make this enormously distorted parody of the character. Right. And I just lost. I was like, oh my gosh, they brought him in.
I want to point this out.
Go for it.
Under normal circumstances, I watch the film and then I make the notes with the cast list.
Right.
But because I thought this was a normal Pinocchio film.
Right.
I had a little bit of time before I had a chance to watch it. Doing stuff. I went ahead and did the cast list part of this early before I watched the film.
Right.
So I'm looking and going, I don't know who half these characters are, but these got to be major characters. I'll just pick a spot down here on IMDb and I'll be where I saw, because that's, because you can tell when you're reading an IMDb list most of the time where the main cast ends and you start getting into the additional voices category, even though the characters have names. And I'm reading through this and I'm going, okay, so we got Podesta, we got a character named Spazzatura, we've got Candlewick, okay, and wait, who is Tom Kenny playing? Mussolini? And I'm sitting there going, is Pinocchio 1930s or was it 1800s? I thought it was 1800s. How are we in World War II? So I'm going in, it's going, obviously there's a setting change. I want to know how they're working Mussolini into this story.
Yes.
Because I have no idea how you're working Mussolini into the story. So I was already a little bit interested in this before I even got started.
Right.
And we get to that scene, it's like, this is the best way you could have worked Mussolini into the story.
Yes.
Oh
my gosh. But yes, they actually brought in Mussolini and I was like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. Small C, you bring in a historical figure, you distort him into a parody of what the character was, and it's just golden. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like, I don't like this puppet. Shoot the puppet.
Shoot the puppet and burn the circus to the ground.
Burn the circus ground. And it's just like, click, boom. It's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
And I'm sitting there going, you can end the film right here.
Yes.
There's a whole nother subplot coming up. I almost don't care.
Mhm.
You kind of just, you became my favorite movie of the year so far with this scene. That's kudos. Kudos to you, my friends.
Yes. So good. So freaking good. I'd be like, yeah. One thing, Mussolini was 5'7". He wasn't a dwarf.
No, but it looks so funny here.
It does.
But it's like I said earlier, it's the Napoleon effect.
Yeah, it's Napoleon.
We also know he wasn't short.
No.
But yet, if you show Napoleon,
you got to make him short.
You have to make him short because that's funny. But anyway,
that was my
Mussolini was my original number 3, but I thought of another one while we were talking about it.
Okay.
Because I haven't mentioned Spazzatura.
No.
My other favorite character in this.
Okay.
Because Spazzatura, the monkey whose name is Garbage.
Yes.
Which I'm still there going, it's got to be the Italian word for garbage, which means Pinocchio, you know what you're saying. Oh, but Pinocchio, I can see how you're not caring.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand the circus leader not caring.
Mm-hmm.
Jiminy Cricket calls him Spazzatura.
Yes.
Geppetto calls him Spazzatura. Maybe you can think, maybe you can have one and go, is that really your name? And then have the monkey just move on. But that character went from being the first time I saw it when he was putting up the flyers for the circus.
Yeah.
We were thinking, oh, you're trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to like you. You're evil. You even got that evil monkey look about you.
Oh.
You know what I mean by the evil monkey look.
Evil monkey look.
Yes. He's like, you're the evil monkey. You're going to be someone I'm not going to like. And you're just going to be that person we keep having to see is like the toady underneath this guy. I think you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you're never going to have any redeeming qualities.
Yes.
And then by the third or fourth scene, not 5 minutes after the character is introduced, you're going, Spazzatura, you deserve better than what you're getting.
Yeah. Exactly.
You are a friend to this guy, and he is just ignoring you. You need to leave. This is a toxic relationship.
Yep.
You are not going. This is not going to go well for you.
Run away.
They made this character, who in the Disney film, like I mentioned, is the cat.
Yeah.
That Mel Blanc was supposed to voice, and they decided not to voice him. A know-nothing character you don't even think about.
Yeah.
In that film. To being like the best character in here besides the rest of the main cast.
Yeah, agreed.
When you see them falling off the cliff, you're like, Spazzatura, no! You can't die, Pinocchio. Oh, he'll come back to life.
Yeah.
Because by this time, we definitely know he's immortal, and he's not made the sacrifice yet.
True.
So it's like, Spazzatura, no, you can't die. We need you at the end of the film. Why? You weren't in the original story that I know. Was the version of this character in the other one still alive at this point? I don't know, but it's like, this became my favorite character, and I should hate that character, and I do at the beginning, but they did such a good job with this character.
True.
That it turned me around. And to some of that, despite the fact that almost all of her lines in this film are variations of
yeah,
it's Kate Blanchett.
Yes.
Now here's the thing. People who know me know that when I saw her in Lord of the Rings, I developed an instant crush on Kate Blanchett. I admit this. She's the best part of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Very
yes,
true.
The fan film.
The fan film.
Just because it was officially made by Spielberg and George Lucas was involved does not mean it's not a fan film.
Gotcha.
As far as I'm concerned. Of course, she was in the 3 Hobbit films. Freaking Hela in Thor Ragnarok. She's the best parts of all these films to me because, it's Kate Blanchett. I like Kate Blanchett. She's pretty. I'm sorry.
Fair.
I know you have similar feelings about other characters. You have to. You're a guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But Kate Blanchett.
Julia Roberts, anybody?
But Kate Blanchett, for whatever reason, has always been that instant crush that's like, yeah, I'm nowhere near your league. I probably would, if I ever got to talk to you, I'd probably hate you as a person, but I like looking at you. And you're kind of, and I kind of, you're just fun in everything you're in. You're another one of those characters I will never hate in any film they're in. They'll be the best part of it.
Okay, then.
And I didn't realize it was Kate Blanchett until the film was finishing, and I saw that, and I saw the look at the cast list. I go, Spazatura was Kate Blanchett. I didn't see this.
You didn't see it
when I saw Kate Blanchett. Like I said, I made this list up ahead of time.
Yeah,
I had recognized the names. I was like, oh, Ewan McGregor's in it. He's playing. Yeah, but I don't make the connections till after I see the film, which is why I was not real worried. And I'd seen Kate Blanchett was in it, and I thought she was playing one of either the Wood Sprite or Death. And the figure Tilda Swinton was playing the other one. I thought that's who she played. I thought, oh, one of those characters' names, the Wood Sprite's probably named Spazatura. Because I'm a stupid American. I don't know what Spazatura means. Because I don't. Until I looked it up.
Like, oh.
It's like, oh. It's like, the monkey? The monkey is this character? Is Kate freaking Blanchett?
Too funny. Way too funny.
Kate Blanchett did an amazing role with what little she had.
Right.
Yes, some of that's acting, but like even is the model work and the animation. Yes. And neither one of us talked about how beautiful this animation is as part of our lives.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's just because so much of the rest of this film is just so well done that neither one of us had to,
exactly
fall back on the easy one.
Yeah. Bonus animation in the movie. Fantastic.
Yes.
Easy.
It's so good you just swear it was 3D.
Yeah, exactly.
3D CG. You swear it is, and yet it's not. But yeah, Kate Blanchett's role as Spazatura is going to be my third like.
Gotcha.
But as much as we love this film,
we got to say something bad about it.
We got to say something bad about it. I want to go first, if that's okay.
Go for it.
I know I have a slightly unpopular opinion with this.
Really?
This is a musical.
It is a musical.
But none of the songs are memorable.
That is true.
I'm sorry, but the song that Pinocchio sings when he's first on stage performing does not hold a candle to Got No Strings on Me.
And it's got the same rhythm too.
It does. And it's like they meant for it to be the same song until they realize, oh, Disney owns the rights to this song. So now we got to change it. It's like, and it's the kid singing it is on a technical level is doing a good job.
Yeah.
Do not get me wrong. But I hated listening to him. No one, he's the only one I think who actually does sing throughout this.
That is
There's a couple other parts where it made sense where it would, but he's the only one that does. And his voice melds too much into the rest of the mix to some degree, and then none of the songs really stand out except the poop song. But that only works because we played the normal version earlier.
Yeah.
And as much as I find that's just funny as a moment, that's not a song that you would put on your iPhone to listen to in the car.
That is true.
It really isn't. There's not a song in here that I would listen to outside of the film. And I am sorry, musicals should have their songs should have that kind of quality where you can, while it does best within the film, it does a good job within the film.
True.
It should also be able to work, maybe not quite as well, but it should be able to work in a home listening environment by itself. It should. There are plenty of songs that I didn't realize were part of musicals till I actually saw the musical. Go, oh, I didn't know that song came from this musical. That's interesting. None of these fit that criteria. And I don't think Guillermo del Toro is actually, I think this is like the first time I've seen him do a musical. I don't think he's very good at directing a musical, or at least not in stop motion, I'll say. But yeah, the songs that play throughout this, they could have been left out, and I think the film would have been better for it.
I gotcha. So before I go to my
The score is fine.
Yeah,
Don't get me
score is
wrong
fine.
there.
Yeah.
But the actual musical elements of it, that could have been left out and it would have been fine. It would have
Okay.
been just as good.
So before I go into my dislikes, I want to quote a character from another studio that's owned by Disney. And this is probably from one of their not most favorite movies, but it's appropriate. No strings on me. Ultron.
You almost got Ultron's line correct. Because he is actually quoting Pinocchio.
Yeah, he is quoting Pinocchio.
There are no strings on me.
There we go. Thank you. But okay, so my first dislike is more of a how did this character get here? So the camp has been bombed or it's blown up.
I know what you're about to say.
Yeah. So but like we see, Pinocchio goes flying and is on this barren rock, and then all of a sudden our main villain just shows up.
It's like, oh, you followed us.
Yeah. How?
That's news.
Okay. I mean, I like.
Shouldn't you be dead by Mussolini?
Yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't Mussolini have executed you?
Yeah, because you upset the Noce. Be like, you die. It's like, but no, he just comes back from the scene.
Shouldn't that scene have gone? Shoot the puppet, burn the camp down, kill the circus leader.
Yeah,
throw him into the whatever the Italian word is for gulag.
Throw him into prison.
Yes. Lock him up, throw away the key, let the monkey go free.
Yes. But no, we get this unexplained reintroduction to our main villain, and he's mad because, oh my gosh, you ruined my career, you ruined my show, so I'm gonna put you on a crucifix and burn you.
I think I saw an Ultraman episode like this. Or Kamen Rider for that matter.
It's like, yeah, I love the scene as itself, but when the character just pops out of nowhere, no explanation where he comes from, it's just like, how in the world why are you?
And I'm sitting there actually thinking at this time when this is happening, it's like, okay, this isn't going to do a cotton picking thing, right?
Right.
He's going to come back. He's immortal. Every time he's died, he's come back.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you burned him doesn't mean he ain't coming back.
True.
Heck, when he comes back after this, when he comes back early, his body should be being digested by the dogfish.
True.
And it's not. He just appears.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I guess that's how that's going to work.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that was my first dislike, is the fact that our main villain just pops out of nowhere. But like, it's a good scene. Do not get me wrong, because it sets up a really good scene later.
Yeah.
But that could have been set up so much better to where be like if they would explain something, like be like I was here, but I escaped or whatever. Be like, he never explains anything. He's just there out of nowhere. It'd be like, it would have made more sense if he would like escape. We saw him earlier, but no, he just shows up in that scene, and then he falls off the cliff, and we actually see the character die, which was interesting. Which is like, oh, okay, you don't see that in kids' films, but
I don't know. That's how Gaston died.
Yeah, but you don't actually see him die. You see Gaston fall to his death, but you never see him actually die.
I admittedly have not seen the film, but I'm aware of the scene, and that's Tarzan. How Clayton dies. You don't see him himself hanging in the vines, but you see his shadow, and nothing is left to the imagination.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
This one, watching this film, it's like, oh, okay. They fall on the cliff and just smash right in the rocks.
Freaking evil queen in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which is coming up, by the way. She gets it by a giant rock landing on her.
That's true. I forgot about that.
So, yeah, even before this, they were not afraid to
they weren't afraid
brutally kill
characters off.
the villain.
The villain off, but this was done very well.
Scar gets eat by hyenas.
That
and
is true.
You see the shadows tear into him.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a very handsome throw rug on Hercules' floor.
Yes. But anyway, that is my first dislike, that our main villain, not the
Is he the main villain? Is there a main villain?
well, I mean, like he's the main antagonist for like most of the movie until you get,
So the Podesta really is doing something, but even the Podesta, really it's both of them just interfering with Pinocchio's life.
that is true.
Neither one of them really fits the actual main villain role. It's just
Caveat,
like you got two major antagonists who are
Yes.
about as evil and they will not go away.
That is true. But his,
jumping off of your
go for it.
dislike, from the time the camp explodes
Mhm.
until almost the end, it really feels like each scene begins. Also, this happened.
Mhm.
Like you said with that, it's like, oh, this guy's alive, and now he's gonna crucify and burn at the stake like a witch of Salem,
Mhm.
a Pinocchio. Like that's gonna do anything. And then, oh yeah, everyone fell into the water. And oh yeah, you remember that dogfish we mentioned earlier, and then we saw
Oh yeah, it just comes over
Geppetto and
No.
Cricket in there.
Yeah.
They're still around. Yeah, we gotta save them.
and he's just off the coast.
He's just off the coast. And they get there, it's like, oh, maybe we'll just hang out and he'll spin us out. It's like, Pinocchio, that's not gonna work. He only surfaces once every 200 years or so, and he's gonna go back down and we'll never see him again. It's like, all things considered, considering how things are gonna go in Europe in the next couple of years for you guys, may be the better move.
Maybe.
But no, it's like we have to do the whole thing. And of course, Pinocchio's last immortal death
Mm-hmm.
to his actual death,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that. It's like not even 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's rapid.
I get what you're doing, but it's like you spent so long they spent so long blowing up the mine.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I know what you're gonna do. Will you just hit the stupid button already? And then it's like, oh, you can't go back because of the way this works. I'm like, you made the deal. Who bloody cares? You're just following rules, and your rules are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Send him back. It's like, oh, you have to be the one to make the decision to sacrifice your immortality. So it's like, then why is he immortal? You could have broke this glass at any time and made him a normal boy. Question, let me rephrase that. A normal boy?
He's a wooden puppet.
He's still a wooden puppet. This is the only version of Pinocchio I have seen where he never becomes human.
Well, in the live action remake, he didn't either.
The one with Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
No.
Oh no, you mean the one from last year?
Yeah. He stayed a puppet.
I could have sworn that he was still the CG character model, but he was more human-esque. It's been a while. It's been since we recorded that episode since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But either way, this is the only time where it's blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
That when he's the real boy, he's still the living puppet. And their excuse for why he's a real boy here is because he actually becomes mortal. Which we didn't know he was immortal till he died the first time.
Yeah.
So you took away anything about his death that would have been, permanent before. Just like, oh yeah, he'll be able to survive. No, if you go back early, you will break the rules and become mortal. And it's like, why? And then it keeps going. It's like, it really does feel like they realized they couldn't end with the destruction of the boot camp.
Yeah.
They realized that at some point in there in the scripting process. So they found a quick way to bring back the circus guy and Spazzatura, even though you could have brought Spazzatura back at a different point anyway.
Right.
And then wrote the dogfish
Mm-hmm.
thing in there because it's like, oh, okay, that's going to be our version of Monstro. I'm sure that's in the original story too.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, we can't just bring in Monstro or the dogfish without at least alluding to him before, because we're going to do what Disney didn't do and explain how Geppetto and not, and Jiminy Cricket got there, despite the fact Jiminy Cricket was, but anyway, that's all added by Disney anyway, so they can do whatever they want with that character at that point. We got to show how they got this so they can meet up, and like, y'all came up with all of that part at the last, and like with like a month to go before animation started, didn't you? Or while animation was being made, and had to come up with a way to end this, and so you kept adding stuff that kind of didn't need to be in the movie to make it a complete story,
right?
And really doesn't feel like it was executed very well, or as well as the rest of it. It's that part where it falls back onto the fairy tale roots that it had sort of separated itself from, by being, yes, there's magic in the real world, and we're going to be bringing World War II. Oh, by the way, there's a giant dogfish in the Mediterranean Ocean that hasn't been seen in years that was not in real history. You can't say he wasn't there, but somehow nobody mentioned him.
Right.
I'm going, this feels like it wasn't unnecessary. You could have had him take down the boot camp and have him like run into Geppetto, or have Geppetto like just show up right in front of him as you're getting ready to go home or something. That would have made just as much sense. And then have an epilogue there at the church, and you see Spazzatura walk up and says, "Hey, sorry for," you kind of say, sorry for everything. Can I hang out with y'all? And like, oh yeah, they welcome him as family. And you do the whole, and then you go to the ending we actually got. That feels like that's what they could have done. And it's like, no, we got to make another half hour of the film.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like a lot of that half hour is necessary, because a lot of it seems like it's backtracking the rules they already made just so they can bring in the whale.
True.
And kill another character that you could have just made us assume, oh yeah, he got in trouble with Mussolini and is in prison or got executed or something. We didn't need to see him die.
True.
So I don't know how necessary a lot of that was at the end as a story. I get you're adapting the original story, so you got to have that in there, but I almost didn't feel like that stuff fit what Del Toro was doing with the rest of the film.
Fair.
So yeah, that's my second dislike.
My second dislike kind of favors in that same way, that you have all this amazing build up and story development throughout like the first like two halves of the first two acts. And then it's like, you have to like quickly put everything back, together to get your conclusion. And like there again, all like a first, second act, you have all this rich detail and rich storytelling and character development and blah, 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 blah. And then it's just like, third act. It's just boom, 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 boom. And story over. Now, it's good in some cases, but its pacing is just, it's so a divergent from what you're doing in the first and second acts. Well, so your third act is just like, it just rushes through everything.
Even in the scene, that really does feel like they inserted it just so they would have the scene to introduce the concept of the dogfish. It feels like it was animated like too quickly. Like, for instance, the captain, the way he leaves the story after he leaves them, to get eaten.
Yeah.
It really feels like that should have been in an Aardman Entertainment film, not this film. It's like, oh, we got to end the scene now.
Yeah.
And we don't want to kill the captain because we don't need to kill everybody. And we just don't need the captain at the end of the film. So we're just going to have him jump into the ocean and swim off.
Yeah. And how can you run from this enormous dogfish?
Yeah, that's my thought, but whatever.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, that is my second dislike of this film. Is that the third act is a little the pacing has changed dramatically in order to get to your conclusion of your film.
Yeah.
So like this could have been an 2.5 hour film if they would have just, kept at that same pace, but they realized what it appears that they just need to cut everything down in order to get nice and trimmed to 2 hours.
They either cut it down or a lot of it was just added so it wasn't just another hour and a half movie.
Right.
That's what gets me, is I can't tell which it is.
Right. You have a third?
I think my third. No, I really don't have a third dislike. The more I think about it, I mean, I could probably come up with a nitpick. Maybe, like I really don't like how Sebastian is just his body is just rotting in Pinocchio's body the rest of his rest for eternity. I kind of think maybe he should have gotten just as buried, just like everybody, just like Spazzatura and Geppetto was.
That's true.
The fact that he's in a matchbox in Pinocchio's body is odd.
I mean, it makes sense that he remains in his home, but it's
right,
a little bizarre.
But it comes at a weird part where it's like, because we see, because the way that ending goes, you see Pinocchio, Spazzatura, and Geppetto, and presumably Jiminy is there, but we're at a distance, so Jiminy would be too small to see. Sorry, not Jiminy, Sebastian. They're walking toward it, and from time to time, in the order the characters probably died, you'll see Geppetto disappear from the walk, and you'll see another gravestone on the hill next to Carlos, and then you see that with Spazzatura. It goes to Jiminy next, but I mean, you also see that with Spazzatura after this. But then just says, and then I died, and my body, and I'm thinking, and you were buried with everybody else because you were an important character whose body should have been laid to rest like everybody else's, is laying in Pinocchio's heart inside of a matchbox. I'm going, I could see the Pinocchio from the beginning of the movie doing something that's stupid.
Yeah.
But not the one by the end who had become as human as anybody else.
Right.
And it was understanding a lot more of things. And I don't know how cricket culture works in this universe,
right?
Even though they do write books, apparently. But shouldn't he get the same amount of respect as Geppetto and Spazzatura in where they're laid to rest? Because as far as we can tell, we don't really know this for certain, admittedly, but Pinocchio's immortal again. Which means the body of one assumes that the character that Cricket's body will, decompose and everything like any other one would inside that. But it's like, it feels like, shouldn't he be laid to rest with everyone else as a show of respect? Granted, he's still kept close to Pinocchio's heart, I guess, is the symbolism or the equivalent of it, because he was supposed to be his conscience, except they never said that. He's just supposed to keep him on the straight and narrow, which is like telling him you're going to be the conscience, but we're not going to make you the conscience. And I guess they do show him at the beginning when they're bringing him to life that he's as much a part of Pinocchio as the rest of it, but it just still felt weird. That Jiminy Cricket is still running around inside Pinocchio's body, one assumes in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, and however long Pinocchio was still running around. Whether he died at the equivalent of old age or got burned in a fire and somehow didn't get, I don't know. We don't know what happened to Pinocchio.
Sebastian even suggested, like they did in the movie, like, I would assume he's died at this point.
You would think, but then we don't know this.
No, because they're gonna be like, he is immortal as long as he doesn't get killed.
Right. Now, granted, I do like that last shot of Cricket playing poker with the rabbit.
Oh, that
was funny.
That was funny.
That was one of those moments where it's like, okay, the movie's over, and I'm getting up and I'm walking over here to do something. I don't remember what, and then I look up and it's like, oh, you're now playing poker with the rabbits. That's awesome. I do like that part, but it's like, still, I will nitpick. It's like, I wish Jiminy had been laid to rest with everybody else. Anyway, my third dislike, now granted, this is a nitpick, be like, we don't get to hear Sebastian sing that much. Now granted, if you ever heard Ewan McGregor sing, he sing amazingly. So we get like these little points where he starts singing, gets interrupted. Be like, I was like, but then you get the ending, which I liked, where you get finally to hear him fully sing, which is great, because if you've ever watched or listened to Moulin Rouge, he does a fantastic job. Right.
But it was like, be like, come on, let the cricket sing. But he finally gets to sing at the very end. So that's more of a but we get it resolved in the end.
Right.
Yeah. So ranking this thing.
Ranking, yeah. I'm giving this a 9.
Oh, okay.
Every issue I had with this is it's not a nitpick per se, but it's like at the end of the day, I don't care that much about it. So, and it was just such a joy to watch. I really want this to win whatever award it's up for.
Yeah.
And if it is just best animated film, I mean, what's it going up against? Turning Red, Lightyear.
Yeah. It's going up against some films that are not.
It wasn't a great year for mainline animation.
Yeah,
for being honest. So yeah, I really want this to win for whatever one it's up for.
Yeah.
And I assume it's that because I doubt it got actual Best Picture nominated. But yeah, I'm giving it a 9.
I'm also giving it a 9. This is a fantastic film. It has its issues like every other film, but this movie is golden. The first 2 acts are like, oh my gosh, this is freaking amazing. The third act's a little sped up. It's got this, just chop beat to everything. And it doesn't have the same pace as like the first and second acts. But overall, I love this movie to death. Highly recommend it. It's definitely not, a little kid's film like the original Pinocchio was. And granted, the first Pinocchio was frightening.
Yeah.
If you look at it, be like, there's not much. There's a lot of smoking.
There's not much scarier than seeing Lampwick turned into a donkey.
Oh my gosh, that was freaking frightening as a child. I was like, what the heck? But yeah, it's like the Disney version, except it's still dark and it's Del Toro. So yeah, it's dark and strange and weird, but beautiful at the exact same time. Yeah. So yeah, 9.
Which means we need to announce what our next movie is. And we're getting to one that this was another one of those that was on the list last year in September before we decided to do Bad Movie Month. And it's a film, probably the earliest animated film that I think that I actually have memory of. It's not going to be the first one I watched because that honor probably goes to Lady and the Tramp because apparently I loved that film as a kid. But that's not what we're reviewing this time. Next time we are going to be reviewing The Rescuers Down Under. Whoop whoop! Ooh, this is a good one.
Yes,
George C. Scott in my favorite role of his.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't make it all the way to the 3rd grade for nothing. So join us next time for that.
Oh my gosh!
Let's go ahead and hit the the intermission, and then we will get to talking about what we've been watching, news, and then talk about X-Men.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box. Whether you enjoy geeky reviews, comedy, or original fiction, you can open up the Culture Box and find something excellent for your soul. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
This week, we suggest checking out The Untold Podcast, which is a speculative fiction podcast using the genres of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, among others, in order to engage the culture's imagination from a Christian worldview. Every month, Nathan James Norman produces and narrates a new story presented in a unique and dynamic way. Check out The Untold Podcast at theuntoldpodcast.com to listen and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
The Cellcast would like to thank the following patrons: Ashley and Francisco Ruiz, Book of Gaming, PaulJPowers.com, and Melanie Dubois.
To get your name on the show, plus uncut episodes, early access to the Cellcast Plus reviews, and special art from Jacob, please donate to us on Patreon.
So, Jacob, I got a question for you, my friend.
What have you been watching?
All right, so what have I been watching? So let's get into that. So, as most people know, I am a history nut. I love history.
No.
And one of the parts of history I love so much is the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, the Roman Empire, and how that all fell apart. So there is a Netflix series called The Roman Empire. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. Be like, yeah, it is not family friendly at all. Be like, it's dealing with Julius Caesar. It's dealing with Caligula and dealing with I am forgetting the first Roman Empire they were dealing with, but I will get to him in a moment. But this was a very, very good, because the first two did very well. They changed a thing here or two about one of the emperors, but I was kind of like, why did you do that? Why would you do that? Hold on, I'm right next. Come on, Adrian. Yeah, Commodus. They versed the Emperor Commodus. If you don't know who Commodus is, go look him up. Be like, he walked into the gladiatorial games wearing a lion head. That's what he's primarily famous for. But they changed a little bit here and there. I was like, that's not exactly accurate. So for me, it's like they did Commodus, they did Julius Caesar, which is a really weird way to start it. But they did that, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then they got to Caligula, which is a very polarizing historical figure in the Roman Empire. Mm-hmm. The fact that he wasn't liked by the Senate. He wasn't liked by the Senate body because he didn't do anything they wanted him to do. He was adored by the people. And so you had all these fantastical, horrible things that the man did, even though we can't physically figure it out because they destroyed everything. And everything was written by the Senate because they were in power. And plus they wanted to, definitely in historical accuracy, they wanted to, Julius Caesar was great. Augustus was amazing. Augustus was, the light of being an emperor. And so everybody else had to be, downplayed. Mm-hmm. So in this, it drove me nuts, definitely towards the end of this third section, because they get into Caligula. So Caligula, historically, in the historical records, was claimed that he was doing bad things with relatives. Let's say that. But it's only rumors what was saying. In this show, they make it actually that he's actually doing this. There's no historical fact that he did anything with any kind of relative. He didn't. But they're playing it as the truth. It's like, oh, okay, I see you're trying to make it more dramatic. I get it. But then they go to Claudius, which is his uncle. Historically, Claudius was the kind of the black sheep of the family. He was ostracized because he had a stutter, he had a limp, because in the Roman patriarchy, you had to be perfect, like the perfect Roman male. And Claudius didn't fit that. So he was ostracized, he was pushed to the side. Caligula gave him a job when no one else would. So historically, later historians would believe that Claudius was involved in Caligula's assassination, but according to history, they found Claudius in the palace, hiding when the centurions found him, and they brought him back to camp and named him emperor. In this, they'd be like, Claudius is behind the conspiracy, and he's there when Caligula is murdered by his guard, which is completely inaccurate to every single T to the letter. I was furious. I was like, what in the world are you doing? That is completely inaccurate. That entire section on Caligula was completely wrong. And to me, the history number is like, foul! Why are you doing this? I'll be like, it was enjoyable, but it's a family friendly. No, absolutely not. I wish I would have got I looked at the rating better. I was like, whoa, okay, they're showing a lot of skin here. Let's just say that. But overall, it was great. The third one made me mad. The first one was like, okay, that was okay. But overall, great. It was great. Definitely, if you're a history nut. If you're like a history nut like me, you might get mad at it. But So going away from my tirade of my history nerdum. So I got done with that. I'm done with my notes for tonight. And so I'm be like, I need something fun that's gonna, be like a little bit interesting, a little bit and I stumbled across a show that I'd forgotten that I had not finished. And it was a show that Chase and you will be like, we're watching. And I was like, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. And I'm
curious what this is.
I started rewatching. Oh, come on. Let me get to it. Toradora.
Oh, Toradora.
Toradora.
I didn't finish that.
Yeah.
I only got like 2 or 3 episodes in.
Gosh. Like, so I finished the episode.
That's not one of those. It's like, I must keep up and watch every episode.
Yeah.
Animes for me.
So
but anyway,
so I finished the episode hadn't finished before, and it was like, oh, okay, that's how that episode ends. And then the next one, it's like the poll episode. I'm like, oh my, and just how that episode's like unfolds and the whole bit that Tiger doesn't know how to swim. And she's so insecure about her body, and it's like it's so interesting that her buddy, who's probably gonna be the love interest at the very end. I haven't watched the whole episode, so no spoilers, please.
She literally turns into a tiger and mauls the entire school.
But no, it's so funny because she is just saying about she's trying to impress people. It comes off very well until the what does she call people she doesn't like? I can't remember.
I don't remember. It's been too long since I watched
it was like some like some kind of cat or something like that. But then this character throws her into the pool, and obviously she can't swim. So her best friend comes in and dives in, but Tigra is it's not Tigra.
Tiger.
Yeah, Tiger. Tyga. Thank you. Tyga is she's thrashing around, she can't swim, but then she's embarrassed by one of the implants. It pops out. And so it's this hilarious scene where she's worried about this, and her friend love interest later, I presume, pulls her underneath and reinserts it, puts it back in. It's like, what the heck? I was like, what in the world's going on? I was like, okay, that's interesting. That was funny. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in how this show continues. So I might, pick it back up. But I was like, what in the world? So that is one of the things I watched. I've been there again. I'm a huge what do you call it? True crime fan. Right. It's one thing me and Ashley absolutely love. One of the things we have this big common together. Hi, Ashley, love you. So I'm getting through one. It's about airline disaster, and it's Mentor Pilot on YouTube, and he goes through. He's a pilot from Spain, and it's just it's so well done, and like it's entertaining. It's factual. It's nerdy. I love it. So yeah, that's what I've been watching. So what have you been watching?
So you expect me to say Car Ranger?
I do.
I actually didn't watch Car Ranger this week.
Say what?
I needed a break.
Oh, okay.
If we're being honest,
too much silliness.
You got to realize I went through Power Rangers Turbo in like a month. And then I jumped straight into Car Ranger, which is the same show, but different.
Right.
And it's like, I need a break from the cars. Don't get me wrong, Car Ranger is a far better show than Turbo is, just simply because all the silliness has context. If that makes sense. But I needed a break from it this week. I will jump back into it probably next week. But I did go back and watch something else, but it will require a little bit of a story for me to get to.
Okay.
Because as you know, Mandalorian is going right now.
That's right, yeah.
And I did watch second episode of season 3 of Mando. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but without spoiling anything, the Mandalorian show right now is going through a lot of Mandalorian history that other shows that happened in other shows. Shows I never got around to finishing.
Oh.
Namely, one particular show that I have no excuse for.
Okay.
Star Wars The Clone Wars. And you want to know how little excuse I had?
Really?
I was 4 episodes from seeing Black Sun or Darth Maul take over Mandalore. From seeing Satine, Duchess Satine, die in Obi-Wan Kenobi's arms. I know this is all spoilers. This is old. I don't care. I was that close. And Grant, I had to get through 4 episodes of we're droids. We're gonna save the Republic, and with this little short dude. I had to go, which don't get me wrong, those were some fun episodes,
right?
But it really felt like we'd been on filler. We were finishing up some filler.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And the thing is, it's not that the show was bad before this point.
Yeah,
it's a very good, well written show. It's just, it took a little bit for me to get to back into it. And the last episodes I had watched were before I got back into this were the ones that introduced. What is his name? He's in Rogue One. The character is, and he's played by Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I watched the episodes that introduced him.
Okay.
And that was such a dark and depressing story because of the story it was telling.
Yeah.
That's like, I had to take a break there, and then time got away from me and I never got back to it. So I watched those first 4 episodes with the droids, and it's like, this is kind of funny. This is a great show. I don't know why I didn't watch that. I didn't keep going after this. And then the next episode starts, and I'm like, oh, Bo-Katan. Hi. I just saw what happened in the other show. Same actress. Love that it's the same actress both in Clone Wars and in Mandalorian.
Oh,
do love it's the same actress.
Nice.
It's like, oh, Bo-Katan, you're here. This is that story, isn't it? Oh yeah, I forgot you were working for Death Watch, which makes you a hypocrite. Excuse me. But yeah, you were working for Death Watch, and yeah, you are Satine's sister, and yeah, a lot of this is your fault because you went along with something you knew you weren't supposed to be going along with, and that story arc was extremely good.
Okay.
Extremely good. I was like, this is amazing. Because you get Darth Maul.
Of course.
Because Darth Maul is the best character that the prequels made.
Yeah. Agreed.
If we're being honest.
Yeah.
That they never did anything with in the original movies outside of that first episode. And then you get this story arc. And it's like, you see him bringing together the pirates. So you get, the big pirate guy from that show. I can't think of his name. He shows back up in Rebels. I can't think of the guy's name, but you get a good episode with him. You get, and then you get, the siege of Mandalore, them seizing Mandalore. You get the whole thing, and then you get the death of Satine. I'm like, okay, that was really sad, and that was painful, kind of to watch, and then it starts playing. The Imperial March.
Oh.
You see a shuttlecraft come in, and walking down that shuttlecraft is a hooded figure. Darth Maul says, I haven't sensed a presence like this since Master! And he's A, scared because his master just showed up, and B, it's like, oh, I kind of do want to see him, but he's going to kill me. And remember, he's running around with Savage Opress, his younger brother.
Clone Wars. Got it.
This is Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay. And you get this and you get this after all this cool stuff that was been going on the last couple episodes with the death of Satine and Mandalore getting season, all this, all of a sudden you get Darth Maul and Savage Opress fighting Darth Sidious. And it's like, this is epic and cool in so many ways. And yes, I see how you got around Cartoon Network censors. I'm still here for it. I was like, this is so cool. Why did I not watch this originally? Because this is a very well choreographed fight scene.
Yeah.
And you get like Maul running around with a single lightsaber.
Yeah.
You get Oppress with the lightsaber staff, and then you get Sidious with his one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is an amazing fight scene to watch. And then Savage gets killed. And it's like, I'm happy to see Savage die because I really never liked his character. I didn't think he was a good replacement for Maul. That's why you had to bring Maul in. And it's like, don't kill him. He's just trying to be a good younger brother to his older brother. Because you really get that feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, he was just trying to be a good guy. He's trying to show up as he was the younger brother to
Maul.
It's like, I don't want you to die. No. And it's at that moment I realized, oh, Maul's going to survive. He has to survive. He's in Rebels. He's in Solo. It's like, Maul has to survive. How is he going to survive fighting Darth frickin' Sidious? And even now I can't tell you how he survived, other than it's like, oh yeah, you're just going to suffer now for a while till you escape. But still, and that's kind of what happened. But it's like, that was so cool. The 12-year-old in me is happy I finally watched this. And then the next episode starts playing. It was the first of the 4-part arc where Ahsoka leaves the Jedi Order.
Oh, I'm very close to finishing that.
I won't tell you how it ends. You know how it ends.
Yeah.
But it's that arc, and it starts off, and I'm thinking, oh, this is just another weird little side story. This happens from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was stupid enough to bomb the Jedi Temple. They're gonna go and her and Anakin are gonna go find this. And it's a nice little story. It was kind of that first one is such a standard Ahsoka Tano kind of story, and then the second one starts, and she's being framed, and then the third one starts. She's trying to escape, and she gets helped out. Where did you stop?
I'm not near that, but I understand what happens.
Okay, basically, they bring back a character from Clone Wars that was introduced in Clone Wars.
Okay,
and that character helps Ahsoka escape, but then because of the way the setup happened, Ahsoka thinks that this other character was the one who set her up, even though it was not her. Basically. And then you get to the last one, and Ahsoka's on trial after she's been forcibly after the Jedi already expelled her from the Order so that she could be tried by the Senate.
Yeah.
Which already is painful enough to watch her get expelled by the Order, because she didn't deserve to be. She was set up in all this. Yeah. And then the rest of the Jedi abandoned her.
Yeah.
So that happened earlier. And we're watching this trial, and it's like, it's heartbreaking. That story is heartbreaking to watch. Yes, the true culprit gets found out.
Yeah.
And if you've been paying attention, by that second episode, you kind of know who the real culprit is. They're not really hiding it very well.
Yeah.
If you're genre savvy, you'll have figured it out. But that person does come to justice. The other person that helped her, since that person would technically be wanted by the Republic, that person is still free to go do whatever that person needs to go do. And you get to that last scene, and they're offering her position. They're offering her to let her back into the Order. And they're giving her that little bead thing that represents her little rat tail that Anakin had. That little bead thing, so she can come back as a Padawan. And she just says, no, I'm done. I've got to move on from this. Yes, that was my trial, but that was the thing I needed to do to move on to be a knight. But I'm not going to be that in the Jedi Order. And she walks away. It's so painful to watch, because it was so much of the life we've seen her have. Yeah. And she felt abandoned, so now feels like she can't trust them anymore. Yeah. So now she's got to go on to another life, and it ends with her walking, out, and it's painful to watch. And then, thankfully, let me ask you: when we were watching Tangled, the series, what was the thing I complained about most at the end of episodes, especially dark, meaningful episodes?
Oh,
That end credits music coming in,
Yes.
going, and then I got my that annoying little whiplash. You think like every other episode, it's going to go. You're going to hear that big Star Wars fanfare come up as it's going into the end credits, like it always does, and it doesn't. It's a slow, sad, mournful thing, as she is, befitting where this is, and then I'm sitting there and I realized something. I was watching it. This was the last episode of season 5.
Mm-hmm.
Disney bought Star Wars after this and canceled season 6.
Mm-hmm.
Season 6 was mid-production. So this was, until The Lost Missions ended up on Netflix, the final scene of this show.
Yeah.
I feel for everyone who was keeping up with this when it was live.
Oh my god.
Because it's like, good night. You just got stabbed in the chest, shown your heart, and now you're being lowered into the Temple of Doom, into that lava pit. That's kind of how it feels.
Okay, fair.
And then Disney bought everything, and we're canceling the show because we don't want to pay Cartoon Network. I'm like, I'm really glad. I know there's 2 more seasons. I know they're shorter, but I'm really glad they're there, because this would have killed me if I was watching it live. It would have killed me.
Right.
I'm being only slightly hyperbolic here. It's like, oh, that was so good, to the point where while I was getting set up, I started season 6.
Huh.
And this is the I'm not going to tell you what happens, but let's just say Order 66 is involved.
Ah.
Not going to tell you why.
Okay.
Those who know how it starts knows what I'm talking about. But it's like, oh, this is an interesting story, because you're setting up, and because that's the thing I started noticing. You look at season 1, you can see how it looks like episode 2.
Okay.
In season 5, they're showing things that make you think episode 3,
because
you see Anakin's Jedi starfighter that looks suspiciously like a TIE fighter.
Yeah.
You see different things like that. And then you see, but then you get to that tribunal, that show trial that Ahsoka's being put on. And that was the first time I looked and went, oh, we're in the Empire. The Empire isn't official yet, but man, that architecture is Imperial. Painfully Imperial.
Yes.
Actually, it started in the prison, but still. Oh man, it's so, I understand now why people love this show, because it's not that I didn't like it before. It was like, okay, this is another Star Wars show. And then you get to those last 2, and it's like, oh, I must have missed a lot of stuff from the previous ones, just trying to work my way through it, because if this has to be like the way the rest of the show was, it's just not what I remember. Because there's so many of those times where it's just like, and now we get a Jar Jar episode. And now this, and then you get to 4th season, and it's like, and then you get to the episode everyone talks about from season 4, which was Heart of Darkness, aka Apocalypse Now episode, basically. And everyone talks about how good that was, and I just remember thinking, okay, it's a good it's a good 4-part story, but it's still 4 episodic parts that are okay. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was okay. And then you get into season 5, it's like, oh, now you're gonna pull on all my emotional heartstrings. Halfway through season 5, and season 6 is doing it too already, and I'm like, even though the character that the Order 66 is not one we know, but do you remember the character Fives?
Yes.
He's involved in that story.
Really?
Right, because he's an ARC trooper by this point.
Yeah.
And like, and you're watching him having to deal with seeing what he might be. And it's like, okay, this is interesting. So I'm looking forward to finishing Clone Wars, and Clone Wars is pretty much what I've been watching since Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Of course, Monday I played Breath of the Wild on stream. Thank you for linking that, by the way.
No problem.
And then Tuesday, I don't remember what I watched. I think I was just tired Tuesday. Oh, Tuesday is when I watched the movie.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's what I've been watching.
Okay.
So Jacob, my next question for you is, what do we have in the news?
The Cellcast News with your host Jacob Heron.
And I don't know how far down this is on your list, but I do want to wish you a happy Mario Day
Yes,
because this is March 10th when we're recording
it
this.
is. I still need to release that image. Thank you for reminding me. So yes, I will get that in a moment. But first, remember that cue I asked you to bring up?
Yes.
Something about a Batman?
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
That's right. So think. By the way, if you could put that link, the link you sent me, put it on the Facebook page, is absolutely hysterical. Just saying, I love that scene. But
I could play it live.
you could play it live. But let's finish. Let's go through this
Yes.
part of the news, and then we can play that. Okay. So, okay. So,
Sorry.
all right. So, everybody knows the big debacle went down on HBO Max, and they decided to cancel everything except for Velma. Really?
I have a suspicion that some of that stuff that
Mhm.
was canceled on HBO Max
Mhm.
may be popping up elsewhere, considering I think the news you're about to bring up,
Yes.
which
So,
is not animated, but I don't care.
this one is animated. Nearly 7 months after being axed by the big HBO Max animation purge, Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, and Matt Reeves
Yeah, that is animated.
recalls call back to the days of Batman the Animated Series with Batman Cape Crusader has found a new home on Prime Video. Amazon has reportedly ordered 2 seasons of the show, which was announced on May 2021 and was described by the co-executive producer as thrilling, cinematic, and evoking of Batman's noir roots.
Noir.
That's what I meant to say. Noir roots, while diving deeper into the psychology of this most iconic of characters. We can't wait to share this with the world. So yes, Batman the Cape Crusader is getting a second life on Amazon Prime. So ever since it is March 10th being Mario Day. Well,
on March 9th, because it was March 10th in Japan that day.
That's true. So Nintendo released the final trailer for the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and which will be in theaters April 5th. If you haven't seen the trailer, I think it's on our Facebook page.
It is.
Yeah, so go check that out. It's a really fun trailer. What did you think about the trailer?
I had 3 things I absolutely loved about the trailer. First off is the crazy what is that thing called? Oh, from Super Mario Galaxy, the Luma. The crazy Luma.
Oh, yeah.
That had been in jail probably a little too long. That was funny. I'm looking forward to see how that goes. I really like Fire Donkey Kong. That's something we've never seen before.
That was funny. That was
Donkey
good.
Kong with power-ups is something we've not seen before.
Yes.
And then it's like the idea that the fact that we're getting both Mario 2D Mario and Mario Kart kind of in the same film is like, oh, this is so good. They even have the when they're picking their carts there at that one point, if you look at the bottom, you can see that it's the actual cart selection screen from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Really?
Yeah, they're the same type of interface.
Oh,
like, okay, that is so cool. So yeah, I think the movie's going to be good. I am at that point now where they don't have to show me anything.
I got you.
However, they did update their website.
They did? Really?
Yes. The Super SMB Plumbing website from a couple of weeks ago.
Really? Didn't know that.
Yeah, they updated that. There was a couple more testimonials.
Okay.
Are you curious what they were?
Go for it.
I got to bring it up. Hang on. All right. So from Drip Drop Be Gone, 5 stars. Never seen a plumber actually go inside a pipe while on the job, but I gotta say, I love the thoroughness. Another Casserole, 4 stars. Saw the plumber's flyer hanging up at Punch Out Pizzeria. These guys are turned out to be fantastic. Princess of Queens says, 4 stars. Even my building's broken elevator couldn't stop these guys. The two just started jumping floor to floor to reach the top of our skyscraper to fix our sink.
Oh my gosh.
Jump.man says, with 5 stars, says the M and L on their hats should also stand for marvelous and legendary. And 1 star from Dunna says, these guys showed up to tackle an emergency job. They showed up in no time, but as soon as they went underground to investigate, we didn't hear from them again. I suspect this is actually a moment from the movie.
Yes.
And then Pipe Dream says, amazing looking water, courtesy of the brothers.
Oh my gosh.
4 stars.
Yes.
So yeah, that's all the new ones.
Oh, okay.
So
this
they are going so hardcore into this.
They are
funny.
They are.
I'm loving it.
So I believe it was early last week. I know we put it on Facebook and the whole bit, but we finally got a trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I enjoyed it for what it was. The animation was very unique. Because I heard someone say, be like, yeah, the turtles sound like they're teenagers, and they got a stellar cast to be all the supporting characters for the most part, and it sounds like a good movie. Obviously they're supposed to be teenagers that are turtles or ninjas, and I'm interested in where they're going with this film, because early reports they were going to high school and they changed a lot. And I've heard people say this is dead on arrival. How people are trying to say how bad it is because how they're portraying April O'Neil. Honestly, I don't care. It's a character. It's adaptation. You do it. It's fine as long as you keep the core of who the character is. And I think if they do a great job, better for them. But I'm looking forward to this film, see what they do with it, and just let the film speak for itself rather than saying it's dead on arrival because you just don't like what they're doing with it. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all I have for stuff for news, unless you have anything else.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and jump into our look at X-Men the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
Previously on X-Men.
Meet the sulky, over-bulky, kinda hulky superhero. A two-fisted and electrically transistored superhero. An exotically erotic and aquatic superhero. The Marvel superheroes have arrived. X-Men.
Spider-Man and his amazing friends, Iceman and Firestar.
First episode of the evening, Whatever It Takes, which aired first on November 6th, 1993, directed by Larry Houston and written by Julia Lewald. In this episode, Storm recovers from her injuries and returns to her duty as leader of the X-Men when a tear in the astral plane appears in Africa. Storm goes there to investigate. It just so happens that the terror is in her home village. Meanwhile, Xavier and Magneto are lured to the Savage Land in Antarctica, and Wolverine continues his search for Morph. For some reason. Speaking of Wolverine.
Welcome her. Wait, she's not joining the X-Men, is she? She's just a kid.
Wolverine.
Okay, one,
You did ask for me to do something.
I did ask him to, it was like, hey, bub, because like that's on fun. I did not expect him to use Pride of the X-Men, but props. Oh my gosh.
You should know that for an hour when I got home, I'm listening through so many things trying to find a good quote. Not that there weren't good quotes, but there's a lot of good quotes we can't use on the show.
Fair.
And because I didn't want to pull something from X-Men the animated series. That's cheating. And most of the X-Men movies, the language is a little rougher than we'd like.
Fair.
Which left all the other shows and games. I actually included games. I watched a lot of scenes from the Deadpool game because Wolverine's in that. The Deadpool PS4 game.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's got to be something funny that Wolverine got roped into with Deadpool in this, and I just wasn't liking anything I was seeing. And then I remembered, oh yeah, Pride of the X-Men exists, and he was Australian in that for some reason.
Very true. Oh my gosh, this episode be like it's pulling from different directions. Obviously, you have the X-Men. They go to Africa to investigate.
I still got some stuff.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I haven't read.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Never mind.
We just got to talking about that other thing.
Yeah.
We got Dave Hemblin as Magneto.
I am Magneto, master of magnet.
Wolverine doesn't talk in that game. That's why I couldn't use anything. Yeah. Ron Rubin as Morph for some reason. And then Maurice Dean Wint as the Shadow King. Trivia for this, we get cameos from Deadpool, Omega Red, Maverick, and Morph turns into them before fighting Wolverine, and later turns into a Panther, a Rhino, and then the villain Sabretooth. I like to point out that was a Black Panther. I'm sure that was that wasn't a reference.
No, couldn't have.
And then Rhino did fight the Spider-Man.
Did
so I'm sure that was not a reference either.
No.
We also get cameos from Bloodscream and Roughhouse, seen leaving the bar that Morph is at in the jungle. The reason why Professor Xavier can walk in the Savage Land isn't explained well.
No.
In the comics, due to a fight in the astral plane, his body was injured, but his mutant mind on a subconscious level thinks it's crippled. When his powers are deactivated, that part of his mind is shut off and he can walk again. However, later in the episode, the Juggernaut returns. The flashback shows young Charles Xavier already having his mutant powers and still retaining his ability to walk.
That's interesting.
The red basketball number 23 jersey Mijnari wears under his shirt is made to look like a Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan jersey.
It does.
Shadow King mentioned to Rogue her body is rather full, referencing all the memories of such of people she has touched. It could also be a reference to the later episode, which revealed how she got her super strength and flight powers in a battle with none other than Ms. Marvel, which is technically Carol Danvers, who we know now as Captain Marvel. And that's what I've got.
Oh, okay. So, like I said before, this is a kind of a triumvirate of stories. It's got you don't normally see a three. No, you don't.
A three plotter.
Yeah, you got Magneto and Charles are stuck in the Savage Land. You have Wolverine trying to find Morph
because,
and then you have Storm because the writers on this show love Storm so much. We have to give all of her backstory to like every other episode. It's just like, okay, she's claustrophobic. And now we get her entire backstory before everybody else, which there again, Storm is a great character, but why are we getting so much of her backstory already? At least
in the flashbacks in this episode, she had the right skin color.
That is true. Character color correction stuff, fun stuff,
things that they didn't think about in 1992.
Yeah, that's true.
93.
But yeah, this is a good episode. I was more like, oh, okay, we get more Storm. Now, granted, if you love Storm, great,
More power
to you.
We're happy for you.
Yeah,
but there are more characters than Storm, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. And Cyclops and Jean Grey haven't had that much.
Yeah. And
give us Rogue, please.
Which eventually we do.
Give us Gambit, please.
Wolverine.
Yes.
We barely know who this guy is. He wears a cool costume. He's angry. He's got claws. Yes. Sneak.
And I forget, last episode we did find out why he's going after Morph. He's the only one that made me laugh.
Thump.
Wolverine, you need help.
Yes, agreed. So
I love you, Wolverine. You're one of the best characters in the X-Men. There's a reason you're so popular. Besides the fact that you're just the Batman of X-Men. But tell me I'm wrong there.
No, you're not wrong.
I mean, his costume literally is just two Batman kissing each other.
Like, gosh, you're not wrong.
I stole that from a meme, but
yeah, Batclaw, anybody? Snick.
Either way, that would be interesting, actually.
Yeah,
that makes more sense than Batman Iron Man, which has been done too many times already.
Right.
But anyway,
the Amalgam Universe. Go look that up.
I'm just saying that if DC and Marvel will not publish this themselves, they need to let somebody else. Need to let Boom Studios do it, or IDW.
They already
some
have
other third party. Okay, make it where I can actually get it.
Oh, okay.
And not this collector's edition nonsense.
Okay.
Give me a decent
they're not that expensive either.
They're not. When were they printed?
About the mid-90s.
Okay. Give me a new printing.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. All right.
Make it to where I can read it on Comixology if I want to.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'd rather read the physical version, but you know what I mean.
Fair. So to kind of highlight Wolverine in this story. So Wolverine is still upset that, he didn't get Jean, and he's still mad about, it's like, Cyclops. I don't like Cyclops.
So now I'm going to go find the only person that ever made me laugh.
And the scene that cracks
I
me up,
really want Nightcrawler in this thing soon.
Yes. So the scene that got me was just made me go, what? And I laughed at it. So obviously Morph can morph into other characters, and he's like toying with Wolverine. That'd be like, oh, I can become anything you want of your nightmares. He turns into Deadpool. He turns into
Deadpool is in his nightmares.
Yeah. And like
not this version of Deadpool.
Yeah, alluding to Weapon X, and then be like, and he turns into the Panther. He turns into the Rhino, and then be like right in front of Logan, right in front of Wolverine. He turns into Jean Grey, and then he just goes to butter. I'm like, really? This is Morph, man.
Yeah.
You know it's him. Why are you losing your flipping mind? It's him. Be like, do you just have that weak of a oh my gosh, I see Jean Grey, I go weak in the knees. I'm like, it's Morph, and he just loses it. I'm like, really, Logan? You're supposed to be this bad? I'm a tough X-Men. I don't deal with things. But Morph, right in front of you, you see him do it, turns into Jean Grey, and you turn into Putty. Really? And I'm
just gonna say that while my memories of the show from my original watching are hazy.
Yeah.
I swear I don't remember there being this much of an actual relationship between Jean Grey and Wolverine.
Oh,
I
in
get
the
that
first season it wasn't really applied that
much.
I get
that he's pines for her.
Oh yeah.
That's fine. But a lot of this I'm still sitting here going, I don't remember this being that big a deal.
Yeah.
As much of a thing.
Yeah, definitely season 2. They've kind of amped up like everything. But I guess
you got to get
hysterical.
You got to get it set up for a lot of the season 3 stories we know are coming. So
true,
I get it.
I found it hilariously like Wolverine, big bad Wolverine, and then he sees Morph, the guy who makes him laugh.
Still with his zombie still with his evil eyeshadow.
His evil eyeshadow. They're like, I gotta do this on my own. And you're like, yeah, the X-Men will be here for the. Why in the world did you go hunt him down then?
I'm still thinking, Morph, you're only doing this because you got a bug up your eye. Mr. Sinister put there.
Yeah.
This is not you. This is not the you from the first episode. Still.
Yeah, they even implied, be like, oh, it's this darker side. Like, no, Sinister did to this.
Mr. Sinister did this.
He's manipulated by Sinister.
Still. At least
it's just like this logic of be like, oh my gosh, he's fighting his inner demons. Like, this is like who Morph really is on the inside. No, it's not.
No. At least it's not Hairbag.
Oh my gosh, no, it's not Hairbag. Anyway. Are you making fun of me?
How'd you know my name?
Anyways, we get the, oh, we're stuck in the Savage Land. Oh, we don't have our powers. Oh, Magneto still is not a really good guy because he kills a dinosaur.
He was protecting himself.
I agree.
Xavier.
I agree.
It's not like the T-Rexes of the Savage Land are endangered. I'm sure they're fine.
That is true. But then you get into the main story where they have to go to Africa, and we get more, Aurora Storm love of like, oh, we can understand who she is.
Yeah.
Oh, she's connected to the Shadow King. Oh, it's just so happened to be the village she's from.
Okay, I have some dumb questions.
Okay, fire away those dumb questions.
So my headcanon during this rewatch is that the reason she commands the weather like she does is that this was how she had to do it when she was the goddess of her village, right? And so this is about the best way she knows how to focus her abilities and control them. When she's being possessed by what I keep wanting to say Spectre, but that Dark Spectre, but that's the Power Rangers.
Power Rangers.
What is his name? Shadow King. He's using her powers. He is commanding the weather like her goddess form does. And I'm like, can she just not control the weather like Wolverine controls his claws? Apparently, or like Cyclops shoots his eye beams, where it's just like a simple thing. Is it not physically possible that she can just wave her hand and cause a rainstorm? I get that part of the reason her character does it is because of the goddess psychology that affected her when she learned of her abilities. Yeah. And she's still kind of playing that role. Okay. But I guess I'm kind of wanting more of the, Halle Berry-esque Storm when she's not being Storm, when she's being controlled by somebody else. Okay. I expect her to kind of, I don't know, I can see Shadow King saying, do you know what happens to a toad when he gets struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else. It's like, that sounds like a line Shadow King might say. Yeah. Oh, and let me just say, I love that we actually get a nice deep voice on Shadow King, despite the fact I'm still looking at this going, Shadow King, really? This definitely feels like right after giant-sized X-Men plots. Before Chris Claremont really took over the story. This is what we're going with? Anyways, this is such a weird character and possesses her godson. Yeah. She doesn't call him godson. She says it's her son because she breathed the breath of life into him and helped raise him. And I'm getting this. I get the point, but he's still the other one's child, not really yours. Yeah. But he calls her mother. But talk about a shocking moment when she says, "My son." It's like, you had kids? Wait, what? When did this happen? It's like, oh, no. Who was brave enough to bet a goddess in your village? That's my thought. Okay. That's literally the thought that crosses my mind. It's like, no, it's godchild. Yeah. It's like, you could say that, but you mention it one time, and then the rest of the time it's like, oh, mother, oh, son. It's like, you're not related by blood. Well, maybe not by blood, but still. Yeah. Also, I still haven't found the connection from you being a street rat in the Middle East to you being in Africa yet. I would still like this connection, please. If you're gonna tell all of Storm's backstory,
yes, I agree.
I would like that connection, but you hadn't done that yet.
Right.
But whatever.
Yeah, good episode.
Also, tell me how your skin changed colors in those 2 episodes. That annoys me.
I agree. It does. It's an animation error. I get it.
It's because it's one thing when the picture changes.
Yeah.
For that Wolverine was holding in those 2 episodes, but I can kind of rationalize it that it was a separate picture.
Yeah.
And it was a scene that happened like a little bit later.
Yeah.
This is just like, you just showed the same scene, but you animated it twice and gave Storm look completely different.
Yes.
Why? But anyway.
Yeah. Good episode. I wish that the Wolverine story would have been a little more fleshed out instead of, oh, Wolverine's tracking down Morph and does nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the X-Men will be here for you. Then why did you track him down?
Maybe let him like rest and do his own thing, and maybe he'll come back.
Let him work through that manipulation, not be like, oh, his dark side games
He's
are
obviously not worked out that stupid bug in his eye.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
speaking of Wolverine, let's go into Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Which came out on November 13th, 1993, was directed by Larry Houston and written by Francis Moss. My guy, Colossus, returns home to Russia with Jubilee by his side. They are confronted by a newly revived Russian life force absorbing super soldier from the Cold War named Omega Red, who has a bad history with Wolverine.
Apparently.
There's reason for this.
Yes.
Xavier and Magneto continue their treacherous journey through the Savage Land. In this episode, we got returning Robert Cade as Colossus, aka Peter Rasputin, Lynn Donchev as Omega Red, aka Arkady Rosevich, David Hemblin as Magneto. I already played the clip. Elizabeth Rukavina as Darkstar, and then Tara Strong as Ilyana Rasputin, which I didn't expect to see Tara Strong's name listed at this time for some reason. I know she was working at this time, but
yes,
in my mind, I don't see her coming into anything until, the late 90s.
That's true. And don't forget, Captain America shows up in one scene.
Yes, and that's why it makes sense.
Yeah,
because if you actually go in, if you're looking at like the reason the Weapon X program happened, the reason why a lot of stuff happens, it all comes back to that super soldier serum that made Captain America.
Yes,
so it makes sense. The Russians are trying to make a super soldier. That's why you get that blink and you'll miss it cameo by Captain America.
Yes,
and so yeah, that's why it makes sense why he's there.
It does,
and it makes sense. And because we do know, we haven't seen this scene yet in the show, but Cap and Wolverine do have a bunch of scenes together during World War II.
They do,
and we haven't seen that yet. But that's why he would have gotten involved with Omega Red in the first place. In this episode, we do have debuting Omega Red, Darkstar, and Ilyana, who later, maybe not in this universe, I don't think, will be named Magic, as that will be her mutant abilities.
Yes.
Also in this episode, Omega Red said he was imprisoned for 25 years. He was frozen after the Russian government saw him out of control. With the show broadcasting in 1993, this would put his imprisonment in 1968, around the same time as the Warsaw Pact invasion of Czechoslovakia. Just to put that in perspective. So Colossus, my boy, is back. I'm sorry. You got to remember, Colossus, for whatever reason, was my favorite mutant character at this time when I watched this as a kid.
Yeah.
And I really can't tell you why, other than he's Peter. He's Peter Rasputin. He is good guy. He doesn't crush sparrow egg between man's thighs. He is not a bad guy, but he's good guy. He's just one of my favorite characters. You got to understand this. There's no good reason for it. It's just he was so cool. He was the mutant who had the weirdly cool ability, okay?
That's true.
For me, it was like the coolest thing that this guy could turn himself into metal. Okay?
Yes.
That's what it comes down to.
Totally
everything else is like, oh yeah, you're cool, no, but hey, look, it's Peter. I like Peter.
Oh, this is a good episode, dude. I mean, like we get a little more like who Wolverine is a little bit, and I like that because I've been like honestly I was more of a Cyclops fan growing up,
which is fair.
Yeah,
a little basic but fair.
Yeah, basic but fair. Hey,
it's like
glasses growing up.
It's
okay?
like I did too.
Okay,
but I mean, liking Cyclops is like liking Wolverine.
True,
you just do.
That is true.
You like them for different reasons, and you probably have a preference of one over the other, but it's not like you hate both characters.
That is true.
Hate one of the other characters.
That's true.
And you got to remember, for me, it's going to be Peter and Nightcrawler.
Yeah, Nightcrawler.
Those are my two characters.
Yeah,
that I just liked because they were cool.
Agreed.
And you didn't, and it was nice to see them show up because neither character really shows up a lot.
Sure.
Although Nightcrawler shows up more often than Peter does. But anyway.
Yeah. So this episode is very interesting because there again, you get this introduction of Omega Red, and Peter shows up in America for some reason. It's like, oh, I have to go to America to find my X-Men friends. Why don't you just call them? But apparently the phone is too busy, or they're not hanging up.
He's from Mother Russia. They don't have international calling.
Apparently.
I guess.
Apparently.
I guess.
But by the way, be like if
by the way, Nathan, if you're watching, this is my audition for any Russian character you have on MIFA.
and
you need someone from Mother Russia on your show at some point.
So just in fact, be like to any of our Russian listeners, it's like we're mean no offense when we do the
kidding.
No kidding. But just wanted to get that out of the way first.
We mean no offense, and B, if you are offended, bear in mind we offend everybody. We're mutually we're mutual offenders.
Mutual offenders. Fair.
Equal opportunity offenders. That's what I was trying to come up with.
Better phrasing.
Equal opportunity offenders.
But
I just remember how much I pissed off the unicorn fans a couple years ago. Also, this is also Mickey Mouse.
Okay, let's get.
I'm sorry. I got off on doing voices.
Yes, I
am a unicorn.
Hush. Let's get to this episode.
Kitty heaven. I'll stop.
Thank you.
There are very few people who might catch that reference.
But this is a good episode. It's be like, yeah, Colossus returns, and somehow be like, he has to fly from Russia to America to New York to go find the X-Men. Obviously, the X-Men are all over the place.
Hey, he wasn't in Russia at the beginning of it.
He happened to be in Russia.
No, he was because he saved Jubilee there at the beginning. He happened to be walking through.
That's right.
To get help from the X-Men.
True.
And didn't know everyone was out of town but Jubilee.
Yeah, that's
because that's what you do. You leave the mall rat teenager in charge of your multi-million-dollar mansion with a giant holodeck in the basement.
Yes.
That makes a load of sense. Cyclops, Storm, Wolverine, you were too busy with Morph. I understand.
Yeah. I gotta find the guy who makes me laugh.
I'm just thinking, I understand. No, Beast is with Jean and Cyclops in Washington, D.C.
That is true.
Answering the question of the mutant problem. I'm thinking, then leave Cyclops at home. He's not going to do you any good at that. He's not that much of a talker. Somebody needs to be babysitting Jubilee. I'm just saying.
And then Jubilee thinks like, oh yeah, we're going to go help these people out.
Yes.
Just leaves a note.
Like, I didn't know you knew how to fly airplane. It's like, of course I do. I've logged 300 hours in the simulator. It's like, Jubilee, you idiot. Also like, oh, I know. I'll just leave a note. It's like, I'm off with Colossus in Russia fighting a giant goober named Omega Red. Lunch is in the fridge. I think that's a joke.
It's not.
It's not. That's basically what she says.
On the note.
Lunch is in the fridge, or dinner's in the fridge. It's like,
Oh yeah, and then Wolverine shows up. He's like, "Oh, Omega Red," and crushes
the paper, throws it on the ground, and leaves. And later on, when the rest of the X-Men finally show up, says, "What took y'all so long? Somebody made it hard to read the note." You know, sometimes the writing on this show can be esoteric and dull, and you kind of wonder what they're thinking. And other times it's brilliant.
Agreed. Oh my gosh. So they have to fight Omega Red, and of course it's like, oh, he's receptible. He recepts badly to cold. It's like,
he was in the deepest cold.
Yes.
Which maybe if we can get him that way again. You mutant girl. My name is Storm. I am a goddess. That's what I wanted her to say.
Yes.
It's like, you shall show me your proper respect
before I fry your belly button.
Do you know what happens to a mutant when it gets struck by lightning? I'm sorry, that's who this Storm should be is. She's just barely out of her goddess phase. She understands she's human.
Yes.
But at the same time, other Russian ladies like, you mutant. It's like, you just said that like everyone else, like all your other Russian friends say Comrade. Also, kudos on actually doing a Cold War story in 1992.
Yeah, that was good.
How far, like, isn't this at near the end of the Gulf War?
This is like in the middle of the Gulf War.
Yes. And that's pretty much Russia. Wasn't officially Russia.
Yeah.
But it might as well have been.
Pretty much. But otherwise,
also very interesting considering current events.
Yeah, that is true.
But anyways,
great story. It was great to get another villain, and then we get this big reveal. It's like, oh, be like, who could possibly be who brought Xavier Magneto to this island? I wonder who. I don't know.
Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool. Yeah, he's the total villain. It's like some
Hydra Bob. Hydra Bob was involved.
Hydra Bob.
It's a Deadpool character.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know.
One time when Deadpool was fighting Hydra, like you do, he met a minion of theirs named Bob, who was kind of a good guy, but kind of got wrapped up in anything. And he's just trying to survive in Hydra without getting killed.
Okay.
And he helps Deadpool out sometimes when they're around. And so he became known as Hydra Bob.
Hydra Bob. Okay.
He even shows up in the Deadpool movie.
Okay.
Despite the fact they couldn't actually use the name Hydra. They just called him Bob.
Okay, then. Anyways, good episode. Like, what did you like this episode? Did you enjoy it?
You ask me when my favorite Russian is on screen.
Okay, well, never mind. You liked it.
If I liked this episode. Okay. And the answer is yes.
Okay.
Also, why am I not surprised that the Russians want to go back to or at least a faction of Russians want to go back to the Soviet Union? That's kind of what Putin wants to do.
Pretty much. No, not pretty much is. But either or.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
This is pretty much the end of this episode because I don't have much to add.
Yes. We're running long in the middle too.
And we're getting a little punchy.
Yes.
That too. Next week's episodes with the Rescuers Down Under, we will be reviewing the X-Men episodes Repo Man and X-Eternally Yours.
Yeah.
Puns, people.
Puns.
So join us next time for that. In the meantime, this has been Drew.
This has been Jacob.
And we'll catch you in the next frame.
You can follow Jacob on his Facebook at Jacob B. Heron. His Facebook page, Jacob's Daily Art Corner, where he tries to draw each and every day. His Instagram at Jacob B. Heron. His Twitter at Jacob Heron. And his Letterboxd at Jacob Heron. You can find Drew on Facebook at Drew Dodgen. His Facebook page, Drew's Photo Bin, to see his photography. His Letterboxd page at GGeorge759. His Twitter at GGeorge759. And Instagram at Drew Dodgen. You can like us on Facebook at the Cellcast Podcast, on Twitch at the Cellcast Gaming, on YouTube at Cellcast, on Twitter at cast_cell. The Cellcast can be found at Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or anywhere else fine podcasts are downloaded from. Please rate and review us where you found us, and also on Podchaser. Email us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com. The Cellcast is a proud member of both the Pop Americana and Culture Box media networks. For more information, please see the link in the description. Our theme song is Drop and Roll by Silent Partner. And remember, that's Cell with a single L.
I don't like these puppets. Shoot him and burn the circus to the ground.
Oh, come on, not again.
Again?
Again.
We're burning another circus to the ground?
I'd have
When was the first? Mussolini wasn't in the original Pinocchio.